Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was replaced and betrayed for Naruto, and everyone faces its consequences part 2. Before we start, please go support DavidArmandoLopezRey for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Chapter 5. Tao City. In one part of the city, as we concentrated in one of the premises called Black Dog Bar, where it was owned by Tobio Ikus, member of the Himejima clan and possessor of the Longinus type sacred gear. Canis Lycaon, in addition to its members, Lavinia Rinai, a talented ice mage from the Grasshopper Guild, possessor of the sacred gear Longinus. Absolute Demise, Natsume Minagawa. A human of great talent for magic who possesses a falcon-shaped sacred gear called Griffin, in addition to possessing Kyunki, one of the 4 great spirits that manipulates the wind, Kauki Samejima, another human who possesses a sacred gear of the 4 great spirits called Teou, and that creates electricity. Another member is Shigyu Nenaderu. The girl who possesses another of the 4 great spirits as a sacred gear called Tati, that has the ability to devour things, and finally 2 team members were Saji Genshiro, former pawn of Sona Citri and Vritra prison dragon wielder, alongside his wife Ika Saji, who was Lavinia's apprentice. However, he also has his allies and friends. Sei Taoju, Tobio's childhood friend, who possesses a sacred gear called Cowardly Leo, Suzaku Himejima, his and Akeno's cousin, and there was a history between them, is the current leader of the Himejima clan, after the death of Grandpa Suuda. All of them did not go to the wedding of the self-proclaimed savior and pillar of factions Naruto Uzumaki, along with his harem that was carried out in Lucifer Castle. It was little that they did not recognize Naruto as a pillar, and as a consequence they had to resign part of the DXD group. Also who left the Gremory entourage was Gaspar Vladi, who has loyalty to his senpai Issei. He did not want to be surrounded by hypocritical people for believing Naruto's feat in such as lie. Once out of the Gremory, he returned to Romania to take his place in the Vladi house, along with the Teeps who opposes Naruto. Another who is on the list was Vasco Strada, who did not agree that Issei be changed for the blonde Uzumaki. Vasco had respect towards the brown-haired. The most powerful exorcist of the Vatican and Cielo also resigned. Now he joins an organization called Warrior Nun that is not at the service of the Vatican. Vasco has put to help the new generation of independent exorcist against the demons renegade and supernatural thing. Hey Tobio, it's true that Vasco is going to the Vatican, Kauki said. According to what Lint said, Vasco Dono met with the new leader of Heaven Male Sama about his possible incorporation into the church, but he rejected it because he was more comfortable in Warrior Nun, said Tobio, who was carrying a food order. I see, I'm happy for him, said Saji, who was eating ramen. Hey Suzaku, what happened at the Himejima clan meeting between you and his grandfather? Lavinia asked Akeno's cousin and also Tobio, who was a member of the clan. Well, those damn old shits wanted to compromise with Naruto, since they saw how my cousin was so attached to her Naruto-kun, so they saw an opportunity to increase power even more. However, I opposed such an insult to me and the memory of my aunt, the brunette responded with disgust. It was to be expected, Natsume moaned in annoyance. Asper also informed me 2 years ago how Uzumaki went to Teep's castle to ruin and asked for Valeria's hand in marriage in the middle of their engagement, Celebrachance Issei, who was drinking a glass of beer. Yes, I still remember how I have humiliated Naruto, said Saji, reliving the memory as if it were yesterday. Flashback Romania. Teep's castle. The Valerie and Gaspar engagement party was being held in the main hall where the guests and members of the alliance were congratulating the couple. Among them were Hanzo, Razor and Shinto gods. Their representative was Amaterasu El Mikami and Susanoo no Mikoto, who did not agree with the pillar of the factions, Naruto Uzumaki. Asper was having a conversation with his father-in-law. He is a tall young man with long, loose blonde hair and a short beard of the same color. His eyes are the same as his daughter Valerie, and he wears a white gold outfit along with a noble war coat. His name was Ferret Treeps, the leader king of the Treeps, for the moment, and on the other hand, Saraerg was having a conversation with Razor about whether to make a new team to combat the threat that is still loose. Blonde Imaginator. Valerie was talking to Lavinia, however everything went to shit when the uninvited arrived, headed by Naruto, who came in a gala suit that put Saji on alert, who approached Razor. Was this going to end badly? And X-Phoenix admitted so they stayed out of it if things got out of control. Naruto walked towards where both of them were, who left to talk and to see the person he didn't want to see, but for Uzumaki it didn't matter since he had that arrogant smile. He is a good gentleman, wants to be cordial with the blonde with red eyes, but Valerie had an expression of disgust because she already knew the same routine as always. Hello, Val-chan, Naruto said with a flirtatious smile. Hello Naruto, said Valerie, who made a forced smile. What have you come for? Asked the albina seriously. What a silly question, coming to claim her hand from her, he said with a radial smile. I already told you 1,000 times no, he said with disgust. Leave this rag failure behind, you do N''T deserve his love from him, said Naruto. Suddenly a magical pressure was released that went towards where both blondes were there. Naruto turned to see the person who was releasing that power, and it turned out to be Gasper, who had an expression of unfriendliness and hatred towards Uzumaki. Uzumaki, leave my fiancé, said Gasper in a hostile tone. Baya, look, we have the pervert's bootlicker here, Naruto said simply. I say the same to you, since God Seches is his bootlicker who gave you powers, he said mockingly, making Rubio angry. How do you insult the great Naruto, said the Uzumaki arrogantly. Oh yeah, of course, oppose pill of the factions, said Gasper in a sarcastic tone. I challenge you to a fight for Valerie's hands, said Naruto defiantly. There are no more humiliations like the one that happened against Sarerg a few years ago, said Gasper indifferently. Hey, I wasn't ready, he was interrupted by Gasper. You are again using the excuse that it was a clean win, you are undoubtedly a bad loser, he said bluntly. You will accept my duel if you are healthy enough as a pervert senpai who couldn't win, said Naruto. Dapser covered his eyes with his hair so as not to look at the Uzumaki, then Farid goes to where his future son-in-law and the unwanted guest start to talk. Naruto Uzumaki, why have you come here? Asked the leader Teeps in an authoritative tone. Lord Farid, as I told your daughter, I came for your hand in marriage, Naruto replied casually. Naruto, do you have any objections to this marriage? I asked a question to the pillar of the factions. Yes, and I have my reasons, said Naruto, making Farid raise an eyebrow. What reasons? Questioned the leader Teeps. That Gasper is not powerful for the shelves of the clan that you represent, and also Valerie is a vampire of pure blood, and it is her duty to produce more descendants of pure blood, so he is not worthy, said Uzumaki in a severe tone. And she needs someone to compromise her, and so I'm offering myself for the future of the clan and the vampires, said Naruto. Farid was silent before Uzumaki's statement and spoke again. You already have Lady Elmenhide as your fiancé, and as the relationship between the Teeps and Karnstein is broken, as the Teeps leader I refuse to cancel this marriage, Farid said seriously. Naruto gritted his teeth in anger because he could no longer claim Valerie's hand from her, however he had the opportunity to tell Gasper who he had not responded. Hey Gasper. I'm waiting for your answer, said Naruto. Gasper remained motionless, then former Citri pawned to see the state of his kohai, but the aforementioned raised his hand that did not come closer and then raised his face with an emotionless look towards Naruto. If you have so much confidence in yourself, I very well accept your duel, Uzumaki said Gasper. Then so be it, you shall fight Gasper, Vladi Farid said as he turned to his son-in-law. What do you want if you win the duel? I asked Naruto. Let the current engagement be broken, and I will be Valerie's new fiancé, the blonde replied. And I must say that when I win, the wedding will resume, and Naruto Uzumaki will never set foot in any Teeps territory again, said Gasper. I'm done, you've been decided, Farid said. So we're going to the stadium to take that fight, he said, to transport the two together with the guests. Iftimi Stadium. Already in the center of the stadium, Gasper was in front of Naruto, who activated the boss gear. Do you think you can face me, Naruto asked. We won't know until we try, Gasper said as he entered battle mode. His eyes were as red as the runic energy symbols on the side of his arms. Gasper fired crimson energy orbs at Uzumaki, who stood there and took the hit. It exploded on Naruto, but when the smoke cleared he was still unscathed. Do you see now why you can't beat me? Unlike you, I am powerful. No matter how hard you try, you can't beat me, Naruto shouted as he sent a large fireball towards Gasper, who dodged it by spinning back. Naruto activated the balance breaker that flew above Gasper. Burn in the flames of the Sekiryuite, you annoying brat. Naruto exclaimed. Gasper jumped towards him, both blows collided and a powerful shockwave erupted around them. Gasper kicked Naruto, and he responded with a punch that was sent crashing to the ground. Damn it hurts, but this blow is nothing compared to Issei senpai's blows. Gasper stood up. Be afraid of a dying scum. Naruto sent a larger dragon shot at Gasper, but he moved aside and avoided it. You have several women around you, but you also have your sister's ex-wife. What's up with that? Gasper asked. Ahahaha, are you jealous that you don't have a harem like me? I'm sure you've never tasted a woman before. Naruto mocked. I'm not a hypocrite who sleeps with his friends' families from his world. At least Issei senpai was perverted and not interested in bucking every 24 hours of the week. Gasper shot blood spears at Naruto, who dodged them effortlessly. Oh? Then why didn't you defend yourself in the dimensional cinema, he said mockingly. Shut up. Gasper shouted. What's wrong, did I hit a nerve? Or are you not a man to be helped? Naruto asked as he landed a couple of meters away from Gasper. Don't talk about my senpai. Gasper growled in rage. Oh, I know what I'm going to do after she is defeated and I take her virginity from Valerie until she becomes my slave to my hawk. She will beg me to go faster when I start ravaging her over and over again. Said Naruto with a smile. I'll kill you, Gasper whispered. Boom. Everyone watching, including Hanzo and Razor, were shocked by the sudden colossal crimson energy that erupted from Gasper, his energy alone sending Naruto crashing into the stadium wall. The ground and all the sand were being dragged away by the sudden destructive force. Not only that, but the ground was shaking, and Naruto was getting up to see something that terrified him as much as Drake. After that, it was no longer a fight, but a massacre for Uzumaki. However, Saji was recording the entire encounter. Now it's crude, said Saji with a camera. End of flash black. After that magical explosion, Gasper had completely changed with his evolution of his sacred gear having armor, and the show began. Said Saji to those present. Ahahaha, I laughed at how he begged for mercy, said Tobio watching that scene in the video. Suddenly he brings a magical message for everyone in the province of heaven. I think he needs us in a faction meeting, said the black-haired man. Yes, something tells me we're going to have a surprise, said Saji. How much do you bet the wedding was cancelled? Issei asked. If I have to bet that threat of an alternate future is going to be caused by Naruto, said Lavina. I accept the bet, said Aika. Well, we're heading to Cow Academy, Tobio said. So the team headed towards the Cow Academy. Alternate Universe FDXD. In the Haidu mansion that is in ruins, a group of young people were found having an artifact, then one of the young people spoke. Is this sure that we can travel in the past? Asked an 18-year-old girl, with blonde hair and wearing combat gloves. We agree with the information that Gasper-sensei said, answered another blonde with great confidence. You're right, besides, you're fighting against those robots, said to a redhead who looked very similar to the Gremory. Okay, everyone is decided, we are going to the last to warn about the threat that is coming, said to a black-haired man who was the oldest of the group. All the others attended what the young man said, some activated the device to open a portal. The group enters the portal and closes it. The XD universe, Narutoverse. Tobio's team had arrived at the Cow Academy in the conference room, where the leaders and the DXD group with Naruto who were very tense about what had happened at the failed wedding. The recent arrivals were greeted by Gasper and his wife, who went to their places. Then Hanzo, the president of the council, who was the first to speak, and on the other hand, outside the city of Cow, a portal opened where the same group of young people who were going to where their parents were came out. However, that was going to turn into a chaotic meeting for everyone, but mainly the son of Issei, who did not know the location of his father with his new family. Chapter 6. Naruto's home universe. In one of the countries that are not under the command of Naruto and the banished god Seches, it was the country of heaven and the country of honey, where they had their own type of government from the other villages. Both villages rejected the invitation to join the Great Alliance. However, that village was going to be invited by the anomaly, but here it ended. It was ninja but different, and today we will see some of that group explored more this world and its culture that was different from where it comes from. Outside the village of Cielo. In a hideout abandoned by the renegade ninja, and now it was occupied by that group of 5 who were ninja, and one of them would be the leader who made a cage mission from that land. We have a mission, said a 20-year-old young man, with long blue hair down to his waist, red eyes, he has a D-cup model body, and was wearing his Taemanin outfit. His name was Yatsu Murasaki. It was now a mission of utmost importance, said another young woman, of the same age, a little older than Yatsu, with caramel eyes, long black-white hair, she has horns on her forehead, and she also has a very developed body adjusted to her Taemanin suit. She is Senri. Yes, we are tired of having to escort those clan heads, said another girl of Yatsu's age, with amber eyes. She has ankle-length blonde hair that is tied in a ponytail, she has a Mahu Shoujo outfit, and she also has big breasts. She is Lilith. So what's the mission? Yatsu asked a young woman, with shaggy black hair down to her waist, green eyes, she has tattoos on both sides, she is a very different Nekomata from DXD, and her outfit was only shorts and a t-shirt, that was a bra for her breasts, she was Kanan. The last woman of the group, with white blonde hair that reached her back, with cyan eyes, was wearing her Taemanin outfit that showed her large breasts, and her name was Shidu Rinkat Demon Arms, who was sitting while drinking tea. Our mission today, we will go to Konoha, because the feudal lord of heaven is locked up there until he changes his decision about entering the alliance, said Yatsu seriously. I hate politics no matter what world, said Rinka as she left her cup on the table. It also has to do with that Naruto Uzumaki who T. Let anyone worship him like a shinobi deity, said Senri, remembering his mission of him in the country of lightning, where he wouldn't stop talking about his savior of him. Well, in our world strange things are happening, for example that some white alien from the moon was found dead without explanation, said Kanan, crossing her arms under her chest. About that, Lilith, have you been able to recover her magic? Yatsu asked the Mahu Shoujo. I keep trying, and the truth is that not during those months that we arrived, she answered, informed the others. But not all is bad news. According to Konoha, there is already a portal that a god has set up at the request of the savior, said Lilith, who carried her key as her only weapon. One more reason to go to Konoha, Rinko said seriously. No objection, our mission has begun well, said the blue-haired girl with a smile. Meanwhile, let's see you enter the land of honey and water. Inside a ship was also the other group of shinobi who was from a different universe, but also had their mission of escorting the feudal lord from the country of honey to Konoha. Outside the same boat are the 5 boys you were talking to and other girls who are bored of traveling inside the transport, and one of them spoke. Ah, how boring to travel, said an 18-year-old girl, blood red and long reddish blonde hair, wearing a standard Hibiho uniform with black tights. Her name was Soji. That doesn't make you feel bad, Soji-chan, said another girl of the same age as Soji. She had medium-length light brown hair with a red beret, blue eyes, she was wearing a long red sleeveless dress and a white apron with long tassels on top, and on her forearms there are large red sleeves, which hide her set of hidden Swiss Army knife-type weapons. She is Kurohoro. By the way, where's Tsubame? Asked a girl with medium-length green hair and amber eyes and a furtive or wild look and an emotionless expression. She is 2 years older than Soji. She is wearing a tattered torn yellow and black striped shirt with a snake print and a black ruffle trim that is very short. Stops at the bust line and shows a lot of cleavage, and her blue jeans have cuts and rips in them. The zipper is down and the belt is undone, with leather straps below her knees and a red snake pattern on her left thigh. She has snake tattoos on her left hip, shoulder and chest. It was Hikage. Maybe he got lost on the other side of the ship, answered one. Is a tall, muscular woman with long, wavy black hair and reddish-brown eyes. Her shinobi outfit includes a tattered gakuren with a cap and metal epaulets, a rope belt and a pair of tengujeta. She wraps her chest in a sarashi and her wrists with the typical bandages of open-handed fighters. It was Daidenjai. Meanwhile, the aforementioned had long, steel-gray hair that she wore in sharp pigtails held in place by thick black bands. Her eyes were dark green. She wore a gray top with black detailing and multiple pins on her left chest. The collar and cape attached to her upper and lower halves were a deep red on the inside, while around her neck was a black collar. She wore a light gray leotard bottom over her lower half and long black boots that reached her calf. This is Tsubame. Where will the others' cabin be? Asked Tsubame, looking for the way. How long will it take us to get to Konoha? The brunette asked clearly. Well, according to what the ship captain told us, for 2 days, she informed Doji, who was in the corner of the cabin. Hey, is it true about the feet of that Naruto Uzumaki, said the blonde to the others. It doesn't attract my attention, said Hikage with a stoic expression. Don't be like that, Hikage, said Kurohoro. It seems too good to me that a genin with little experience could end a war like that, said the black-haired girl with closed eyes. According to the information we have gathered about that blonde in those months, according to Cage, who helped us, told us that he participated in the war and formed the Great Alliance. However, they had an arrival of a god who said he had a new mission in the other world where he went and was able to create a portal in his village. Doji thought. The XD universe, Naruverse. Our Academy conference room. The leaders and their escorts were at the meeting. On the side of the demons were Hanzu and 4 mouses. Of the fallen were Shimazi and Becariel, followed accompanied by Michael and Gabriel, since she was the new leader of Subu Fall. Mael and Nuriel were from heaven. The Norse were Odin and Thor and Balder. The Yakes, who were spokesmen for the Japanese gods, were Yusaka and Kunu. The vampires were Gasper and Valerie and Ilmenhild. Of the Hindus it was Shiva. And finally there were the 2 dragon gods in their human form. Then it is Hanzu who starts the emergency conference. Thank you all for attending that urgent meeting, said Hanzu. What is the situation we are facing? Gasper asked seriously. A few hours ago, during the wedding, we had an unexpected visit where we had the presence of the goddess Chichigami, who gave us information about the enemy, and they are also the ones to blame for what happened to Hades and the other Greek gods. Mael responded with the same seriousness. Who is that enemy? Balder questioned. The evil gods from another world, also known as Nuriel replied. How powerful are they? Said Shiva, who had one of his arms on the back of his neck. We don't know, said Azazel to the god of destruction. However, we already know who the culprits are for bringing that threat, said the president of the council, looking at Surziches and Naruto with the others who felt the Hanzu's withering gaze. Don't tell me it was Naruto, said Gasper without any expression of surprise. Hey, don't blame me for that shit that goddess said Naruto. You better keep quiet, Uzumaki, said Gabriel coldly towards his ex-fiancée, who felt a pang. How do we face it? Asked Thor. That moment is to put maximum alert in all factions and put the safety of the people, said Razor. Also, the DXD group should go back to training, since with the level they have, they are rivals for them, said Barakiel, who looked at Naruto with resentment. That you have ruined his family. I don't need training. With my level I can win, Naruto exclaimed. Not in such condition to confront, said Mael to Uzumaki, who gritted his teeth. How is it? I think we need reinforcements. Asked Odin. About that, I already have the ideal candidate, Hanzu said with a smile. Those present widened their eyes at such a statement from the president of the council, but only one Redeed had an idea of who it was. Issei, Rias thought. Don't tell me you're going to bring that pervert, Naruto thought in anger. When Hanzo was about to speak again, a large magic circle opened before the leaders and escorted them to where the group of young people who came from the future came out. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, we see a certain brown-haired boy who was at the warrior nun facility who was training his son Boruto Himura's. Suddenly the brown-haired boy stopped what the younger blonde was doing. "Father, is something wrong?" Boruto asked his father. "It's nothing," Boruto Issei said in a kind tone. "We better continue with his training from him," said the brown-haired boy. The blonde agreed and continued that he was done. "That presence I feel in Kao, I feel that they are very familiar and I feel that I will be in action very soon," thought the brown-haired boy while activating his Dragonverse. Back at the Kao Academy, the group of young people looked at everyone around them. Some of them felt curious before something new that they didn't know or a change that never happened in their universe. Then Naruto stepped forward towards the group. "Who are you to interrupt such an important meeting?" Naruto asked arrogantly. "I'm sorry, we don't talk to strangers," answered a blonde man wearing armor. "Damn brat," said Uzumaki, who didn't like that he answered them. "Forgive our introduction, we are looking for our parents," said a brunette who looked a lot like Kuroka. "Who are your parents?" asked the former ruler of the fallen. "We are children of Consecuencia," said all the young people, dropping the bombs in the conference room. Those brought different reactions. Naruto had a smug smile thinking it was his son with his harem, but he was going to have a much worse revelation, while Rias cried with happiness since that red-haired boy was her son. On the other hand, Great Red sensed the dragon aura on 10 youths and had his thoughts on him. "I feel that Uzumaki is leaving with an unpleasant surprise that they are not his son, but hi to Issei's," thought Great Red that this meeting was going to bring one more change in the future. Chapter 7. In some places in the city of Kao, Azazel was sighing as they headed to a bar since the faction meeting was interrupted by the chestnut children. He had hoped that his friend could move on after Shuri's death, and now it was costing him that he had an alternative grandson who helped repair his relationship with his daughters. They were using all their money on drinking. Barakiel was completely vulnerable. The former governor of Grigoi had put up barriers so that the aforementioned would not get into trouble with the bar's customers, so he opened the door to see Barakiel at a table full of empty bottles. "Damn Barakiel, these guys have gone too far," he said as he approached the table, making the black-haired man look up. "Let me keep drinking," said Barakiel, very drunk. "And if you keep going like this, that business will end up bankrupt," said Azazel, taking a chair. "I don't care about anything, I want to get rid of those damn sorrows that you have caused me because of that damn shitty blonde," the dark-haired man shouted while hitting the table. "I understand that you are angry, but you have to be happy that you have a grandson," said the fallen one, trying to find something positive. "My grandson, you say? He hates me for what I did to his father and also my daughter who sees him as a whore," said Barakiel, who takes his beer mug. "And why is hell here?" he asked while drinking his beer. "I worry about you because you are my friend," Azazel replied. "You don't know anything," said Barakiel, who left his empty jar. "What are you trying to tell me?" asked a former governor, annoyed. "You never cared about starting a family, you only care about bucking any woman who passed you by and being lazy instead of working as a governor," he answered bluntly. "As long as I started a family, but now I have nothing left," she said, sobbing that she had lost. "You are not the only one, however it is our karma for changing Issei for Naruto," said Azazel melancholically, who remembered several truths in the afternoon. Flash black. In the conference room, the revelation of the Consecuencia's children was still being processed. The case of Razor, who looked curiously at a girl who had the same hairstyle as his younger sister, but he was sure if she was a daughter of his brown-haired friend or of Naruto, who couldn't stop smiling like shit. One of the young men did not like at all the look that the Uzumaki was giving them, as if he had won the grand prize. "You know it's rude to introduce yourself," Hanzo said to the boys. "Forgive my manners, I am Kurenai Himejima," said the oldest of the entire group, who bowed to greet those present. Hearing the boy's last name, but mainly Akeno and Barakiel, who was very surprised. "Then who else?" "I'm Irie Argento, I'm Kurenai Niasen's sister," she said kindly. This greatly surprised the former nun, who looked just like them. "It's my turn, I'm Zen Quarta, I'm Kurenai and Irie's brother," he said seriously. "I am Shin Shido," he said calmly. "My turn, I'm Helmwich," he said to make a point. The Nordic people were very surprised, but Roswis was even more so. "I'm next, I'm Ernestine Karnstein," she said expressionlessly. "I guess I'm next, Robertina Phoenix," she said calmly to lift her hair a little more. Those surprised the aforementioned, but Razor kept watching just to check something. "I am Kurabara Taojo, and she is my sister," said the brunette girl. "My name is Shirayuki Taojo," she said with a smile. "I am Modred Pendragon," he said in the form of a knight. "I am ex-Gremory, and lastly our brother Arger Leviathan," he said calmly. Nice to meet you all, said Archer, bowing like his brothers. This surprised the former brown hair queen even more, as she never expected to have children. Then the strongest former seraph in heaven spoke. Excuse me, I have a question, said Gabriel towards Kurenai and her sisters. Why does it have the surname of the aforementioned? I asked with curiosity. Seraph Gabriel, said Kurenai seriously. I no longer have this title, said the older blonde to the black-haired man, who was surprised but remained firm. Answering your question, we are children of our parents' timeline, said the eldest seriously. Again it surprised everyone, then the retreat spoke. So you are my son, Rias said, looking at X, who gave her a smile. That's right, Okasama, said X, making her cry with happiness again. Amazing, look, Naruto-kun, our daughter, said Ravel, looking at her ex-fiancé. But Akeno-sama also had a child with you, with a smile. What Ravel said fell like a bucket of cold water on the semi-fallen and Kurenai's brothers, but more Kurenai was in shock, but began to get angry at such an insult, but something was not pleasing to her when she was going to speak, but her mother who snatched her away. I will never have a child with Naruto, said Akeno with venom. Don't be like that, Akeno-chan, said Naruto, who felt that pang inside. Don't you see that they are our children? As he approached Kurenai. Hello son, come give me a hug, he said, trying to hug the black-haired boy. But before Uzumaki could touch Kurenai, he abruptly shot out towards a wall of the room, crashing into it, cracking in the process. Everyone was shocked by what had happened and saw who was responsible. Pioneers. Why do you talk to us as if you were our father? X asked grimly while holding his fist outstretched, implying that he had punched him. I support my brother, I do N''T know who you are, but do N''T you dare come closer, said Kurenai, who was releasing lightning in her hands. Naruto quickly stood up and looked at the two boys seriously. Why did they do that? He asked, somewhat annoyed. It seems I will have to teach morals, he said seriously. The blonde was about to move, but he couldn't because someone was stopping him, and it was Hanzo. Uzumaki, I suggest you return to your place, said the president of the council with authority. DCH, said Naruto, who returned to his place where he was being healed by Asia. Getting back to the subject, can I ask you a question, said Archer. Go ahead, young man, don't be afraid to ask, said Hanzo. What happened to our father, asked a purple-haired man looking for the presence of his father who was not in that room. When she asked the question, Kurenai saw half of the people in the room with expressions of disgust and others with sadness and regret, something that the black-haired man noticed a lot when he saw his mother's face, which she was hiding from him in a way that he had to discover. Then someone, the bad Leviathan, spoke. If you're looking for this pervert, I'm sorry he's not here, Seraphil replied seriously. And what would that be? Helmwich asked. You shouldn't worry about that, nobody, daughter, said Roswia, supporting Seraphil. This took the albino girl by surprise when her mother Della spoke ill of her father Della, but the former student president continued the venom. He was just a nuisance, good for nothing and perverted, said Sauna with annoyance. Robertina was upset that her fire began to increase along with her dragon power, since she had a father complex, and Ella hated that person who criticized her father, that Ella was noticed by Great Red, Hanzo and Razor, who smiled. You are undoubtedly Issei's daughter, you deserve to be my niece, thought the Mausmatius. It's true that useless, he's good for nothing, it's a shame that Drake is no longer incited, since it was embarrassing to be my rival, said Volley seriously. X did not take this statement well, who he considers a second father, and who was his teacher at the request of Issei himself who trained him. He knew perfectly well that he does not have a relationship with his father, but that his own rival would do not allow talking about his father, even if he is his teacher. At least Sechi's-sama separated it and gave it to Naruto as the new bearer, Ingvald said with a smile. That shocked Archer, since she never talks about her father, but more than the fact that Dragon himself turned his back on his father, that seemed to change him, and he slowly lost the respect he had for the Welsh dragon. It's true not to worry about him, he's a hexual predator and rapist, it would be better if he died, said Asia with disgust. Ella's daughter had lost that smile and changed to a dark look, since that so-called mother was wishing death to her father Ella, but to her husband Ella who saved him. It's true, if it weren't for Rias I would have let him die on the ground, said Circiches. X was held back by Shin and Zen, as he wanted to start a fight, but they were also very angry, but more comments came from the Citri entourage about his father. While Azazel, Michael and the others were silent, since it was not worth saying anything about Issei, but more so Irina and Akeno. On the other hand, Hanzo was already tired of that shit defending his supposed pillar of him, he wanted to tell the truth to the brown-haired boy's alternative son, however something happened. And it was that X had freed himself from his brother's grip. I'm tired of hearing all that shit about my father, said X, extremely angry. I demand that you tell me your other last name, Naruto demanded. Kurenai, I think it's time to reveal the main surname, and also who our father is, said Shirayuki. It's true, little sister, said the black-haired man with a smile. He wants to do my last name so much, I'll tell him clearly, he said with a mocking smile. I introduce myself, my name is Kurenai Himejima Haidu, and I am the first son of Issei Haidu, the dragon god of domination, and the current leader of Grigori, Thunder Priestess Akeno Himejima, he said with a smile. Hearing the black-haired boy's last name and who his parents were, everyone had their eyes wide open in shock, but more so Rias, Hanzu, Razor and Tobio's team. While Akeno didn't know how to react to the news that she had had a child with a man she had abandoned, and she almost fainted. That means that, said Rias, who couldn't hold back her emotion from her. What Nai-san said is true. Will I introduce myself again? My name is X Haidu Gremory, and I am the son of Issei Haidu and Rias Gremory, he said calmly seriously. Rias cried with happiness again, since her dream of starting a family with a man she had loved had come true, even if it was in a timeline. However, she was afraid of how he would react, since she was raped by Naruto. Razor could N''T be more than happy to have his niece of Ella, but on the other hand, Ravel felt like her world of Ella was falling apart, that her daughter of Ella was not hers and Naruto's, but Ella was the daughter of the pervert. While the others, except Irina, hoped that if it were her and Uzumaki's son, pity would never happen. As more presentations went on, the aforementioned ones fainted and another in shock like Zenobia, who refused to believe. No one said anything, but Naruto was full of rage until he spoke. I see, you are the son of a pervert, said Naruto. That's right, we are children of an alternate future, or rather we are their children from another timeline, said Kurenai seriously. Wow, I never thought about meeting Issei's children, Razor said in amazement. So Uncle Razor, although I have a question to ask, said Robertina. Why is my mom with this blonde, he asked his uncle about him. You're right, why does our mother hate our father? Modern questioned. Some leaders were tense by the question of the chestnut children, but more so the one who was recovering from the faint, another like the case of Rias who had the courage to speak. I know the reason, said Rias. Please Rias, don't do it, the red-haired Mayu begged. No, they deserve to know what happened to their father. As a mother I will tell him, said the retreat, ignoring her ex-brother. Say it, Rias, Okasama Irie said. The leaders and their mother changed their father for that attempted messiah when we were summoned to a dimensional cinema revealed to Issei's children, who was in shock. I guess there's no turning back now, said Azazel. What do you mean by that, said Kurabara, seeing the look of her mother, who did not want to turn to look. The god named Seches who manipulated his father during the universe demonstration where Naruto came out, said Michael, who saw Shin's incredulous look at him. After thinking that he was a better catch than him, we did not hesitate to change him, and then the girls also supported the decision, said Auden. That means our mother slept with that stranger, said the albino girl who refused to believe that her mother had cheated on her father. We are telling the truth. If you want to check, I can see your aura from her, said Great Red. The boys complied with the dragon god's order to check their mother's auras, but they got an unpleasant surprise that the aura was not from their father, but from this fake individual, which bothered the chestnut-haired children a lot. What does that mean? Zan roared at his mother, who looked away. Okasama, tell me it's not true, said the younger blonde towards the ex-nun, who also looked at her. Yes, it's all true, said Irina, confirming the information that made Shin dismayed by the revelation that his mother gave him. We have given ourselves to Naruto, said Akeno emotionlessly, making her son look at him indifferently now. They felt like the shit he was. Then, that's also T, said X, but interrupted by Penemu. She never gave you up like us, but she was forced to lose her virginity with Naruto, said the former cadre, causing the Redeed to be surrounded by her aura with the power of destruction. It's true what you're saying, mother, said X, covering her eyes with her hair. Then Hanzu spoke for the Redeed, who didn't want to remember that. Unfortunate step, young X, if not I will ask your uncle who allowed you to grape your own sister, said the black-haired man. Once again the room was completely in a deathly silence, causing Irie to faint from the revelation she had just received. Well, her brothers already wanted to kill this bastard who had ruined the lives of their father and mother, but they didn't know that someone who was more bloodthirsty was X. However, it was Naruto himself who added fuel to the fire. So you are the children of this damn pervert, surely you are weak and useless like him, said the Uzumaki mockingly. How dare you insult our father, Robertina shouted angrily. Suddenly there was an explosion of magical power. The person responsible was X, who had summoned his sword Galatine III, who wanted to slice blonde Uzumaki. Damn you, I'll kill you, said X. Calm down, brother, I understand that you are angry just like us, said the black-haired man, who tried to calm X down. He doesn't have the guts like his father. It's obvious that you're as cowardly as him, while showing a shitty smile. I see, Uzumaki, if he wants a fight against one of Issei's sons, challenge to see his current level, said Razor. Fine, I'll do it, Naruto said. Who are you going to be your opponent? Hanzu asked the brown-haired sons. I said X, taking a step forward. Okay, then it will be a Naruto versus X, said the president of the council, approving the fight. So everyone went to the academy courtyard where there was more space for the fighters. Now Naruto and X looked at each other, but in the Redeed's gaze, there was a clear intention to kill and a thirst for blood that would knock anyone out. Before starting the fight, I'll ask you now, why did you grape my mother? He asked quite seriously. His mother was very much in love with him, something that Sechizama could not manipulate, since the only option was to force her to watch as he was mistreated, humiliated in front of me and the others. Even his own grandfather changed him for me, who they saw as a better son than him. His family wanted a grandson, so I took her virginity. He doesn't know how much I enjoyed it, he responded with a sadistic smile on his face. That's your reason, right? Said X with his eyes devoid of light. Now I will finish you off and avenge everything you have done to my father, he said to brandish his sword, which he took advantage of to approach the blonde and deliver a vertical cut. Naruto also used his own sword to block the younger Redeed's cut, then X kicked him in the sides, and the blonde could be seen flying away with large wounds on his body and breaking his armor. How did you do it? Naruto said, standing up. And you keep up with me, said X with a sly smile. Shut up, Brad, he said angrily while throwing fireballs of a fairly considerable size. X with a blade, the sword with the power of destruction, destroyed the fireballs. With a quick movement he approached Naruto from his blind spot and dealt him a powerful kick in the ribs, sending him to the ground. The Uzumaki gets up again, but X made another move with a spinning kick that sent him up, taking Rubio by surprise, who couldn't react in time, since X cut him with the power of destruction, destroying the armor, leaving Rubio unprotected and causing him to fall to the ground abruptly. Those amazed everyone that the son of Issei and Rias was good with the sword. They wondered who trained him. But Rias cried that her son gave everyone as if he had to see the same Issei. Former landed on the ground, putting away his sword as he slowly walked to Naruto, who was putting his armor back on, and lunged for a punch at the Redeed, who dodged the blonde's blow. X responded in kind with two powerful blows to the chest, causing Naruto to hit the ground, creating a small crater in the ground as he spat out blood. The Redeed took Uzumaki's face to Ella with his hands to Ella and lifted her up as if it were nothing, while he began to squeeze with his to Ella hand to Ella. With his right hand to Ella, he began to give her strong blows all over her body. Everyone was impressed by the power of Issei's son, but couldn't help but feel pity for Naruto, except for Tobio, Razor and Hanzu's team, as they had been victims of X's pent-up anger. But there was someone who was worried about all this, and that someone was Zen and Kurenai. "It can't be, he lost control again," said Zen, clenching his fists. "What do you mean?" Rias said worriedly. During Kiba-sensei's training, X couldn't control his anger when he remembered some comments from the air that he would never surpass Rias Okasama. "I thought he had it under control, but I see that I was wrong," said Kurenai with utmost seriousness. "They are undoubtedly Issei's son," said Saji with a smile as he was hugged by his wife. Zen went to where his brothers were. Meanwhile, in the fighting arena, Naruto had already stopped trying to break free from the grip that the Redeed had on his face. He was unconscious, but that didn't matter to X. He just continued to vent his anger through strong blows to the fake's body without any compassion. Zen appeared behind the Redeed, who quickly ran to where he was and hugged him from behind, trying to get him to stop. "Brother, that's enough, stop," said the blue-haired man, grabbing the red-haired man tightly, making him let go of the blonde, who fell to the ground like a stone. Noticing that the aura of anger that X was emanating had not disappeared, Zen hit him on the back of the neck, forcing him to fall into unconsciousness. "Forgive me for this, but it's for the best for now," Zen said, laying his brother's unconscious body on the ground. 10 minutes later. Little by little X began to wake up, but he had a severe headache. "I think I went a little overboard this time, this feeling," said the Redeed, touching the back of his neck. "I see, it was you, Zen. I appreciate you stopping me," he said to his brother. "It was nothing," said Zen with a smile and offered his hand to his brother, who took it to get up. "It seems we have a winner, and it is X-Haidu Gremory," said Hanzu. "I'm sorry for the loss of control I had," said the Redeed, giving his mother a smile, who returned it. After this, a rather awkward silence formed as no one knew what else to say until Razor spoke. "This meeting is over. Mayu Lucifer takes his pillar to the Haidu. From now on he is forbidden to approach Issei's children," said Mayu Asmadia seriously. "It also goes for every Niseeing her ex-sister who wanted to protest, but Akeno got ahead of her." "Understood, Mayu Asmadia-sama," said the half-fallen woman, surprised to her other harem sister. "Hey Akeno, don't you think this is exaggerated?" said Roswis. "No, I'm just doing it because it's right, since our children only have a bad idea of us," she said before leaving in a magic circle. "I agree with Akeno-san, we don't deserve," Irina said. "No. I refuse to be separated from my children," Zenobia shouted. "He's right," said the former queen of Issei. "I think the only one who can see it is Rias. It's not fair," said Elmahild, who was throwing a tantrum like a child. "We better go, since we have to heal Naruto-kun," said Serafal. Paisum said. End of Flash Black. After the meeting, everyone returned to their respective factions, while Naruto was taken to the Haidu mansion to heal his wounds, all under the gaze of Sursages who was having remorse for his decisions. "It's all my fault," the older Redeed whispered. Universe 3276. Total destruction could be seen in a city of Tokyo that had been destroyed by one of the pillars of Seches that had been fused and now needed to be completely purified. "Ah, how boring to finish off that trash," he said to see a mountain of corpses that had heroes, villains and girls in robotic suits. "I hope this bastard Dowler has a better part," said a woman with white hair, blood-red eyes, she has a crown with a horn, she has extremely hexy clothes with her model figure, and behind she had a black red cape. She was Angra Mayu, goddess and mother of evil. Chapter 8. Present. Dowler walked normally while he was covering himself with a slime suit that killed everything in his path on the grounds of the Is Academy. Suddenly and his squad began to come out with the intention of capturing the villain. The black-haired man sighed. "Miss, I don't want to hurt you," he said calmly. "He just wants to ask where is Izuku Midoriya?" he asked a group that was flying overhead. "I don't know who you are, but we're not responding," said one of the pilots. "Why do you want Izuku-sama? You killed Laura-sama," and Celicia-sama, said another with hatred. "Well, I guess it's the bad way again," said Dowler. The squad leader ordered the others to open fire on the intruder, releasing a shower of bullets towards Dowler. Dowler created a barrier of slime blocking the bullets that fell to the ground. The black-haired man summoned some small magic circles where fire javelin came out that went against the pilots who tried to block, but it was too fast for her that hit some area of the aforementioned, causing an explosion that Chains who screamed in pain, dying instantly while falling to the ground. Dowler wants to advance, but again he is attacked by energy arrays that he mastered, seeing his opponent, and it was Rinling, Charlotte, Haoki, the Sarashiki sister, Takanashi and Kanzashi, and on the ground was Momo who was using her training, Namuri and some student from 3 of the UA. "Intruder, you will not pass and you are arrested for terrorism and murdered," said Namuri. "If he wants to find our cinnamon roll so badly, he'll have to go through all of us," said Haoki, pointing his katana. Each one got into a fighting position. Dowler didn't say anything, so he created his sword which he swung at the as representative and heroine, starting a real massacre. On the other hand, there was Jean Darkhalter who had brutally killed Lady Montana, the adopted daughter of Tabane and Izuku, Chloe, the former members of Phantom who were evangelized by Izuku through Hex. The only one left alive was Ichiko Orimura's twin sister, Madoka, who had her Kurikishi half-functioning, due to the attacks of the white-haired woman who stared at him with madness. The younger Orimura with both of her energy swords, launched an attack to kill, but Jean was very bored of killing the bitch Izuku. She swung her sword that she threw at a blinding speed that Madoka couldn't keep up with, who lost sight of her. However, she felt something that was daring. She lowered her gaze that she saw Jean's blade while spitting blood. While she released her swords that fell slowly, the white-haired girl indifferently moved her sword upwards, cutting through Iz's entire skeleton who caused an explosion there. More professional heroes with self-defense army went where Jean Alter was, who dispensed the smoke with her sword that was approaching more people to attack. She could not be more than happy. It was no secret to anyone she was the best hunter of sinners in the Malabarge, who was trying to escape from Limbo City. Universe 3320. In the city of Aurario was a true hell, where the bodies of the adventurers were on the ground, while people ran like crazy for their lives. There is still the family of Hermes, Loki and Freya fought a guy who had a weapon never before seen by them, since that mysterious weapon had killed almost the entire adventurers guild and former member of the Apollo family. The individual wore a black vest with a tie of the same color left on it, with a white long-sleeved shirt rolled up showing his tattoos. He carried a gun on both sides, had gray eyes where he showed a scar next to his eyes, black hair, black pants and shoes, and also carried a gun covered in gold like his hands. He was responsible for ending the guild. The Hestia family and the Shinobi Alliance arrived with new hero Naruto Uzumaki, who had Hestia's dagger to stop the invader. "Oh look, I found a system error that must be exterminated just like the others, that must be exterminated, and this reality is ridiculous, don't you think?" said Tim calmly but seriously. And the corrupt characters did not know what that stranger was talking about, but he continued talking. "You know my duty is to exterminate your world as well as its inhabitants and its pillage as well, and that is because a god corrupted it. And that brought serious consequences, and I was chosen to eliminate your corrupt world by orders of the judge and the high command of Wattpad City," said the black-haired man calmly and revealing the situation in front of the corrupt ones and the pillage as well. "No matter what you say, Naruto-sama changes our lives," said the goddess of home who was covered in fire. "True, no one is going to take away what is rightfully mine," said the Naruto variant who gave a war cry against Tim. "Well, you chose death, and that's why I will kill you without any mercy," Tim said seriously. Behind him he summoned a large number of firearms of all sizes and thus released a great rain of lead against the corrupted characters who fell like, and another used magic or jutsu to protect themselves from the burst of bullets. The goddess Hestia throws a fireball just like Loki, who used divine magic to catch the Tim. It was worth coming, he said in his mind, while the sword master went towards him with the intention of cutting. Universe 3901. Neo-Uzushi Agakure had conquered the entire shinobi world, and the village of Konoha became an exploitation and concentration camp under the command of Naruto, who made the Uzumaki believe that his village and the other villages would betray him in the future, and they got into the idea that the shinobi world would be ruled as the true king. Naruto fell into the temptation of Seches when he returned to his world to continue the fourth war. Without thinking twice, he killed Tsunade, who was in battle with Madara, and then the arrival of the Atlantis Empire's army and the Ataraxia squadron commanded by Riari, Ain, wife of Neo-Uzushi Agakure, Haoru, Eurisha, Sylvia, Scarlet, Gertrude, Aldea, Gravel, Zelchian, Cordum, Grace, Hakuto. Osiris, Odin and Thanatos began the immediate invasion of the village. Obito was shocked at the sound of his sensei had killed his godmother, then he knew that Seches used them all to rule Naruto. Then it turned into a ninja war, where Naruto and his wife massacred everyone. Hinata was tortured by the Ataraxia squad until she died, while Obito joined forces with Kakashi to stop Naruto, but the blonde was used. He brought Iro fused with Kurama as a battery, but everything was in vain, and they died in the attack in just one day. After the invasion, he killed the other Kage and started his tyrannical government, while the survivors were captured and taken to Konoha, where his weapons factory would be Neo-Uzushi Agakure. Naruto wanted more power, so he started making a plan to go to another world. Unfortunately, it will not come to fruition. 3 extremely unknown armadas had arrived at Neo-Uzushi Agakure, Ataraxia and Atlantis, with a mission of complete purification. Their commander of each armada was Sasuke the Iron Hands, Naruto the Ultramarines, Salamander Militia. Naruto's son variant is too bloodthirsty to kill his father. That activated the maximum alert of the 3 sites. The battle quickly began where Naruto saw him leave his alternate son. Universe 2109. The other variant of Izuku was at his base while they looked angrily at Broken, who had mercilessly killed his wife and Hex slaves, in addition to the revolutionaries he wanted down, as was the case with Koda and Adrian, taking advantage of the Guardian's moment. Izuku I think varies against measure if his powers given by Seches disappear. He already had 3 backup plans. The first was putting together a satellite with which he worked to create meteorites to destroy cities and thus stay in power. The second was an armored suit with all the powers of Ofa Afo and through a dimensional portal to go to another world where he would start over, and that would mean killing his variant. The green-haired man went to his weapons warehouse, where his armor was created by his wife Melissa and May, thanks to the discovery of meteorites that contained a metal extremely unknown to them. With the armor he managed to kill Afo and Tamura, without first stealing all of Afo's power. No one is going to take away my kingdom that I created. It doesn't matter if it's a god or a guardian, I will be the most powerful. Ha 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 ha, said Izuku, putting on his armor that was about to go out onto the battlefield. But the Dower group. Dower was already inside the school hallways, since it didn't take long to kill Izuku's wife. The black-haired man is serene while attacked by Maya, who is with her as with the intention of stopping him. That was useless against him. Dower's suit came out to hit the slime's claw that pierced the teacher's body, but without being decapitated by the same one. He continued his journey, then he had a call from Angra. "Dower, where the buck is it?" said Angra, who is deflecting several tank shots. "I continued at the academy, I had some problems," he said calmly. "DCH, it better end, I don't want to miss the premiere of Terrafear 2, said the white-haired girl, taking a tank with the soldiers inside and throwing it at the others, causing an explosion. Almost there, the Missy he couldn't finish because he was attacked and the call ended. Izuku was outside the academy, who were responsible for the attack destroying the building. Dower was still inside, who removed the smoke from the explosion and fixed his gaze on the green-haired man, who was with Rias from the previous pillar, modified with the powers of Ofa. "I think my target has reached me," said Dower. The god and the corrupted pillar were about to start the fight, however he had not noticed that Chifayu, with both katana unsheathed, was attacking Dower, who blocked it with a slime shield. "I guess I forgot about her too," said Dower. "Damn it, killing my student and best friend," said the first pilot angrily. "I really don't regret it, on the contrary, I'm doing my job," said the black-haired man calmly. "What justification do you have for committing a genocide?" Izuku shouted from above. "Oh Izuku, you have no right to say that, since you would ruin Ichika's life," said Dower. "Izuku didn't ruin anyone's life, my failure brother didn't have the balls to accept the feelings of the girl he liked," said Chifayu. "Yes, of course, as they were manipulated by Seches to be tortured and even forced to watch his orgy with Izuku," Dower responded sarcastically. At Dower's comment, Chifayu lunged at him with the intention of cutting him, and Dower created a slime clone to distract the brunette, while Izuku also prepared to attack Dower using the lightsaber. The black-haired man blocked Izuku's attack with his sword, and then the aforementioned created mist that shielded Daora a little. Daora defected the presence of the green-haired man with a movement of his hands and blue wind. The mist disappeared from Izuku, surprising him. Daora with his finger created a mini magic circle in machine gun mode, firing a round of fire bullets at Izuku, who blocked everything with his lightsaber, activating the 20% AFO, giving more power to the Is with shielding speed. That did a Detroit smash 20% on Daora's body that shot out against the other buildings, destroying all in its path, causing an explosion. Izuku flew towards where his enemy was, who smiled proudly, but his smile lasted little as he saw a tornado dissipate the fire where Daora came out without a burn. He was very fresh like a lettuce well bought from the market. That left Izuku stunned, who changed strategy and began launching micro-missiles towards Daora. "If you want to be serious, well, I'll be very serious too," said Daora. The whole place was getting too heavy, some buildings were collapsing, while the seas caused a tidal wave that destroyed everything in its path. Everything was seen by Angra and Alter Jean from the rubbed sky. "I never thought I'd see Daora like that," commented Angra with her arms crossed under her breasts. "What shape?" Jean asked, curious about her wife. "Look carefully, Jean, see Daora's Armageddon mode," she replied relaxedly to the white-haired girl. Inside a special dome, a transformation was taking place that could not be seen with the corrupted pillar that he had no idea about. However, his danger sensor was on an imaginable alert. His body trembled in fear when that dome had broken like glass to see Daora's appearance. He saw death himself personally. "Daora, Armageddon mode. Izuku Midoriya, it's time to be purified by me," he said in an otherworldly tone with his slime trident. But Tim. The god had already finished his mission, while a squad of judges arrived to take those who were not corrupted by Seches. He was going to have a new life, since his universe was slowly being destroyed. Tim was inside that tavern where Belle hung out, having a few drinks. With Broken. The city of Paris was in complete destruction from the fight between the Izuku variant and the Guardian. Izuku was against a rope that he had no chance against him, so he activated his meteor cannon to try to kill Broken. Broken knew the villain Deku's weapon from the reports he had reported. That's why he got rid of the cannon first before massacring everyone, leaving Izuku alone. But Daora versus Izuku. After Daora's transformation, it had become a brutal massacre, where Daora took Izuku's face with a burst of speed that was launched towards the mountain, destroying the Is, while Daora's clone ended Chifayu's life. Daora transported you to where Izuku was in a large giant crater. He changed his weapon for an axe that cut off the green-haired man's entire arms, who screamed in pain, but Daora didn't care. And again a trident returned that was buried deep in his chest of the new symbol of peace raised upwards. Daora fixed Izuku's expression that was absolute despair. This ended up cutting him like butter when the trident blade protruded from the back of the deceased Izuku. Daora deactivated his Armageddon mode to see the lifeless body of the green-haired man. "Mission completed, this universe enters a state of self-destruction to be completely purified," said Daora. That's when Angra and Alter Jean arrived. "What would you do with the souls of the 4 corrupted universes?" asked Angra. "It's not obvious, to get to Malaberge to pay his sentence," the black-haired man responded. "Well, it would be more work for me," she said, shrugging. So the 3 of them leave the place while the universe was slowly self-destructing. Each pillar is only a soul of its world, but also a fundamental gem of the multiverse. If the gem was not corrupted, it had the right to be reborn, but if it was extremely corrupted by the god, it had no right to be reborn, and it was completely destroyed out of nothing. Chapter 9. Haidu Mansion. Night. Ria's former queen friend, Akeno Himejima, was on the rooftop of the mansion, sitting on one of the rooftop benches watching the star and reflecting on her decision to trade Issei for Naruto, and also turning her back on the deed when she needed help the most, when she was raped by the blonde. As a result of that, she saw the true nature of the former multiversal god Seches and met her future son with Issei, Kurenai, who found out the truth that happened with the brown-haired boy. She can't blame her alternative son for having a bad image of her, although deep down he deserved all the karma and more than Issei will not forgive. She became Rainer, who caused a trauma in Issei's heart. She and the rest of the club managed to heal, but now they reopened it just to screw him over and over again in the dimensional cinema. Then Else had arrived at the rooftop. Akeno tilts her head to see her harem sister, who was Zenobia, Roswis, Ravel, Serafal, Sona, and her servants with Kuroka, to see her and confront her about that faction meeting a few days ago. The former fallen demon sighed, knowing what was coming when the former Valkyrie spoke. Akeno said Roswis to her companion harem sister. "What does Valkyrie want?" he said coldly to the silver-haired girl. "Why do you accept Razor's order?" "Not our fiancés," Sona asked in Naruto's defense. "Amaeus Madius has more authority than this bastard," replied the former queen of Rias. "Don't you dare insult me," said Momo, frowning in annoyance. "And what do I care? Why have you come here?" said the black-haired girl seriously. "We want to go see our son," Naya Kuroka said to Ria's former queen. "SW? "You're wasting your time," said Akeno disinterestedly. "Akeno-sama, reconsider, can't you leave it in the hands of the traitor?" said Ravel, trying to reason with Akeno. "Rias has more rights than us together, besides if we approach them alone they will reject us more," he said, facing the blonde ex-Phonix. "Why is she defending herself now and acting like a mother?" questioned the blue-haired girl with a green streak. "Look who else is talking, the empty head who thinks she has a powerful son," replied the brunette, her companion. "Damn it," Zenobia muttered, wanting to launch herself into an attack, but she was stopped by the hand of the ponytailed Mao. "Enough, we just came to talk," ordered Citrimeo to the blue-haired girl with green hair whom she reluctantly accepted. Akeno saw it out of the corner of her eye from Seraphile's action. "I'm going to ask you," Kuroka Akeno said in a serious tone. The former criminal was very attentive to the question of the former fallen demon. "What would happen if Naruto recovers from the humiliation that Ria's son gave him? He will take revenge?" he asked seriously. "I wouldn't and I would never do that," answered the Nekomata. "Ah yes, then explain how he reacted when he found out that everyone was Issei's son. Do you think that his daughter or that of Kaneko-chan, Asia, Roswis, Almahilde and Ravel will accept him as a stepfather?" "Obviously not," said the former queen to the Nekomata who did not know how to answer. "He will destroy Issei's legacy, or no matter if they are from the future, I can assure you that he raped his daughter," finished his argument. Nobody said anything, much less Kuroka, who lowered her head as she remembered when he killed her master Ella, when he wanted to take advantage of her to Ella and Shirin. Now, once again, a scenario opened up. If Naruto would do that to her daughter and her niece, she would not do anything because she was allowing it. It would only make your future self disappointed if you leave it in Uzumaki's hands. Universe. 3901. The battle between Neo Uzushi Agakure versus the invaders gave ground to one and the other. Sasuke is faced with four rivals such as Naruto, Naruto's mother-in-law, Voldy, Scarlet and Aden, while the younger Rikid had Hiryu, Thanatos. Ravel, who is consumed by rage after learning that Milik has murdered Aldea, and finally Sylvia, who was loading her attack on her cannons against former children of the Mao Lucifer and the strongest queen. Milik has used his hammer to summon a barrier to prevent the short blonde's cannon shot. On the other hand, Boruto had it more complicated since he was fighting against his former variant of his father, along with Ryuri, Ain and Grace, who was extremely injured from the attacks of the former Uzumaki, while Naruto's other wife fell dead at the hands of the squads. Naruto would have entered Kurama mode with Eros with the intention of killing Boruto, since he knew that Seiches told him that his future was going to be to Hinata having two of them. That disgusted him too much. That is why his main objective was to invade Boruto's universe, kill his children, and that Himawari would be sold, have Sarada as one of his Hexwell slaves who only obeys him and his wives. The Uchiha used his sword to pierce the red-haired loli through the chest from behind. As she coughed up blood in a daze, the armor grabbed hold of the dying Scarlet, trying in vain to free herself, but slowly with the sensation rapidly leaving her body and dying. Naruto used creation to create a giant battleship that aimed at its target. The battleship's cannons fired lasers at Sasuke. He also raised his arm with his gun aimed at the battleship. A blue light shone from his arm. It was a plasma ray, and a single shot down the battleship, causing an explosion, where Naruto's bodyguard used Rail to attack Sasuke using her claws. Once again he used a plasma beam and fired it at her, falling into a hole in the blue-haired girl's torso, who fell dead. Aden summoned Farner, a mechanical dragon, and ordered him to fire powerful beam attacks at the black-haired girl. On the other hand, he is the son of Sirsiches and Graphia blocks and deflects Hiryu's cuts, while Gravel, after losing some of his arm, still had his gunsword, began to shoot towards Milika, who dodges the shots of the tanned blonde, forming a distraction created by Thanatos, who he had his lightsaber with the intention of cutting him in half. While the fight of ex-son versus father, Boruto had no problem killing Ryuri by sticking his own sword and decapitating his head, leaving the Chidorigafuchi sister knocked out so she wouldn't bother the pearl. Naruto created some Rasengan towards the former Uzumaki, who blocked it with his shield. The blonde uses Nero mode, using his wife's katana to kill his alternate son with Hinata. Boruto used his spear to block the blade of the katana, thus starting an exchange of cuts at maximum speed, where Boruto uses a blind spot to lock the blade of the spear in the shoulder of his alternate former father, who screamed in pain. Naruto jumps back where he enters Ashura mode fused with the powers of Aden, whose weapon was the Gunner spear, thus beginning the true apocalyptic level massacre. Universe. 2109. The battle between the corrupted pillar versus broken was pure walking destruction, where the guardian took Izuku's leg that spun so much that he was sent flying towards the large buildings that were pierced as if it were paper match. The green-haired man moaned in pain that his whole body hurt, but he put together a way to attack until he reached the destroyed Eiffel Tower. Izuku took the top of the tower with his super strength and threw it where his enemy was, who was looking for the green-haired boy. Broken heard a metal sound where he was at maximum speed, using his arm where his laser beam that destroyed the piece of the tower in half. They fell on separate buildings. But it was all a distraction from Izuku, who created a portal to give him a kick that destroyed the walls of an almost finished building and was now collapsed to hide the guardian. The green-haired man had a smile of victory that he had achieved a feat, but it was not going to last long since Broken was out of the rubble of the destroyed building without receiving damage. Izuku frowned in anger and so continued where a series of explosions ran through a fight. Broken blocked a series of powerful punches from Izuku, he ducked underneath and then responded with a pair of shotgun blasts. The 10-gauge shells launched at the cracked green-haired villain several times on the street. The green-haired man got back up after the shot, using his foot thrusters to jump towards the invader with his arm thrown back to punch. Broken used his hands to stop the punch, causing a wave of wind destroying windows and flying cars destroyed in the area. Izuku uses his other arm to try to hit him, but he was blocked again. With both fists blocked, the guardian takes his arms and begins to crash several times on the ground, causing the green-haired villain to spit out large amounts of blood as his bones and vital organs were broken inside him. That finally his armor was destroyed. Broken took him by the neck and looked at Izuku. "It's time to end your reign of terror," Imposter Broken said. He throws Izuku higher up, who begins to freefall onto the green-haired man's body. The guardian is already preparing his final attack against the corrupted pillar, using a hook with a chain that tied Izuku's body. Before he could react, it was too late for the villain. They ripped his head off his torso and released a quantity of blood along with his remains onto the ground, staining the street before he fell to the ground with a thud in two halves. Broken is observing the body of villain Izuku that had no life. Inside it was a gem that also broke after the death of the corrupt pillar. He turned around to abandon that universe that was going to be destroyed by nothingness. Back with Narutoverse Universe X Masu Gakuen. Sasuke and Milikas had finished killing Naruto's wife and went to save the prisoner who was in deplorable condition. Then one of the squads of Judge Dredd commanded by Judge Rias arrived to take those affected before the universe is destroyed. On the other hand, Boruto had off his armor helmet to go to the cemetery where Minato and Kushina's grave was, who was not damaged by the fight. Naruto's former son said a prayer to his grandfather, who is grateful for ending Naruto's dictatorial government. Bull the aforementioned was no longer in fighting condition, he no longer had his arms or legs, Iroh's core was destroyed, and Kurama was released inside Naruto to go with Boruto. Now he could only breathe, and lying in the tree after being defeated, he thought he was invincible, and there was no one more powerful than him. That had been made clear by Seiches because he was the child of the prophecy. The special one of the multiversal gods. And now he had nothing left. Suddenly he heard some footsteps and he weakly raised his head to see Boruto, who was ready to kill him. The older blonde said nothing accepting his defeat and death. With the spear in his hands he leaned back to give him the coup de grace. The blade of the spear locked in the chest of his former alternate father and destroying the gem that controlled that universe. Thus the four corrupted universe was completely purified. The XD universe. Asmodeus territory. The next day at Razor's castle, some of the Chestnut's children were sleeping, but the older ones were in their uncle's office to ask what had happened to their father and their new family. Razor replied to them that Issei himself during his meeting with him and Hinata told him everything that had happened in the dimensional cinema, where he was beaten to death and humiliated by Seiches and Naruto. Kurenai clenched her fists tightly. Zen cursed her mother's imposter in Italian. X had another reason to kill the blonde bastard if she recovered again. Then he was thrown out by his own father, his grandfathers, by Naruto from the mansion, which made him even more angry, but he found out that he was going to propose marriage to everyone, and the island where he is living was going to be the honeymoon, but everything was ruined by ex-multiversal god and Uzumaki. He also learned that he has a great-grandmother from his ungrateful grandfather Goru. She is the leader of the Himura clan. "Uncle Razor, can you tell me where the island is?" X asked seriously. "The island is outside of Japan, but don't worry, the Christmas party is approaching and I'll go see them," answered the Mao. "Thank you, Uncle Razor," said the blue-haired boy. "It's nothing, on the contrary, you came to report against the threat that goddess Chichigami-sama said Razor. "About that, Dad gave me a device where all the information about the X-gods is there," said X. "Is your father powerful in the future?" I asked curiously. "I'll show you an image of what Daddy looks like now," said Kurenai, making a hologram to see a dragon the same size as Drake in his time. Razor's eyes widened as he saw the dragon that was his friend, then he started laughing. "Issei will never cease to surprise, and even in the future," he said with a smile. "Yes, he gave up being Mao to later become the new dragon after the death of Great Red at the hands of one of the gods," said Zen, crossing his arms. "Then the situation is even more serious than it seems," Razor said seriously. X appears was going to speak, suddenly a hologram appears where Ajuka. "Razor, call the DXD groups," said the green-haired boy. "What now happened?" asked the blonde phoenix. "The world of Naruto is under attack from the enemies we face," he responded hysterically. That surprised Razor and Issei's children at the information revealed by the Mao Beelzebub. Chapter 10. Naruto elemental countries. Odds, they are everywhere. Keep fighting before Naruto-sama arrives. The screams of the Alliance's shinobi were drowned out by the sounds of intense, uninterrupted gunfire as they fired into the horde surrounding them, Just-type rounds, rockets, and grenades towards flew the enemy, cutting them down in droves, but their numbers were relentless and endless. As one fell, two more took their place as they drew closer and closer to the line. The shinobi of Konoha and Uzashigakure were beginning to panic, but it was a testament to their training that they did not break the line or cease their valiant defense. Retreat. Fall back to the perimeter. The sergeant shouted to his men as the enemy approached. Sir, yes. A shinobi gasped as a three-pronged metal claw pierced his chest from behind. The man coughed up blood and, stunned, grabbed the intruder, trying in vain to free himself, even when he was easily lifted off the ground. Slowly, with the sensation rapidly leaving his body, the shinobi turned his head to look at the origin of the claw hand. It was attached to a long, metal tube that came out of an outstretched metal hand with two fingers and a thumb. A purple light shone from the hole in his palm, from which the extended tube emerged. The tube itself was fleshy, but more like a tendon than actual flesh and bone, because that was all it was, simply a set of tendons beneath the cobalt armor on the chest, arms, and legs. The last image the private saw was the robot's exposed skull, a purple light emitting from the center of its forehead. With a groan of pain and fear, the shinobi relaxed and lay still. Aku? The sergeant shouted as he raised his hand to prepare a fireball only to be knocked down by purple plasma beams that fell smoking holes in his torso. His men eventually panicked and began firing wildly, only to meet the same fate, their smoking corpses falling to the ground, joining the hundreds of the Alliance who had been defending their village that was on the brink of destruction. The robots advanced, passing over them as if they weren't there. Hundreds more followed as they marched deeper and deeper into the city, pushing the defenders of Konoha and Uzashigakure further and further towards the Hokage Tower, where Tsunade and the other Kage were waiting for Naruto's help with a DXD group against the invaders. On the other hand, there were two groups of shinobi who were not from the Naruto universe, watching the carnage unfold through their eyes. They were on top of a ruined building. In Tsunade's office, I had a thought. How did things go so wrong? He thought as he hit his table next to Hanabi, who had a dead expression since the Hyuga clan was massacred by the invading robots. It all started 2 days ago. In 2 days, that's how long it took for Konoha, Suna, Kumo, Iwa, Kiri and Yuzashio to fall. Everyone was gone, there only remained smoking craters where once stood mighty cities. Before it happened, everything was going very well. Where the 5th Hokage were in negotiations with the two feudal lords of the country Sky and Honey about joining the alliance, both were with their special escort. The first told the busty blonde again refuses to sign an alliance, since he forced him to hold back for 2 months, while the second was not lovers of war. But if alliance threatens to invade, just follow the whim of Naruto, who was not here in the Hokage Tower. Tsunade wanted to make him an offer not to go to war, when suddenly they received a message from Shikatsu Forest, where her and Sakura's slug were, that the forest was under attack and needed help, but it was interrupted by some shots that cut off mental communication. No one knew what was happening or why it happened. It was then that the first to see an unknown being emerge from the clouds and hover over Konoha. She remembered the silence that fell over everyone as they simply stared at it, awe and fear filling their souls and theirs. The figure was then revealed. It was a tall mechanical humanoid, approximately 2 meters tall, with 6 eyes, its armor resembling solid polished gold that shines with false magnificence, and its dark cape. Looking at them was less like looking at people and more like he was looking at ants. For a long time, he remained still, in tension growing with each passing moment. Then the humanoid being spoke, and she could still remember the words as if they were spoken only 5 minutes ago. "Inhabitant of that world," he said in an emotionless tone. "I am Wriggles Eva, one of Eevee's deities, who has come to cause the destruction of your world, so don't resist," said Wriggles Eva to all the elemental countries. In that, creating a broadcast where it shows the entire village and including those who were not from the alliance, people wondered what was going to happen, what Wriggles Eva had meant, only to see robot titans floating in front of them. Only to suddenly unleash a great bolt of lightning straight into the heart of Kumo. Like a tsunami, the lightning engulfed the city and everything in it, blinding everyone with its brilliant light before receding. When the light was gone, Kumo village was a smoking crater, gone without a trace. That's when the screaming started. Everything had gone straight to hell since then. The shinobi of the 5th Raikage Dairy, followed by the former 4th Raikage, to defend their land, managed to bring down the Titan over their country, but they did not know about the massive attack of humanoid robots that weakened and completely destroyed the country of lightning. But the other villages also received the same attack from the Titan robots and hordes of robots in just 1 day. The negotiation table had been suspended to become an operations table to combat the recent threat. Tsunade and Hanabi sent a dimensional message to the faction leaders, and Naruto asking for help. On the other hand, the feudal lords of Heaven and Honey asked the escorts to cooperate in the emergency alliance. Yatsu and Dodoji accepted, since the people needed to be saved. The blue-haired girl with her weapon on her shoulder prepared to attack as she watched Rigglezeva's army march towards her position, shooting at any shinobi who got in their way. Yatsu came down from the ruined building to destroy dimensional scrap. She struck the purple light of the drone with her axe, causing the head to explode in a shower of bones, muscles and green fluid. The other drones turned their attention to her and raised their arms to fire, only for a series of explosions to run through their ranks. Fire, shrapnel and shards of concrete and metal, sending pieces of flying drones. The survivors were momentarily disoriented, which Yatsu took advantage of by swinging his axe as fast as he could and cutting off their exploding heads. His partner Elikanen, as she jumped into the horde of robots. His powerful punches ripped through the horde of robots, each one breaking chunks of metal and sending his enemies flying. He ducked beneath a blast of plasma and then responded with a kick that ripped through the robots' torsos, sending them falling lifeless onto the cracked concrete path. Her attackers defeated, she moved on to another group, leaping towards them with her arm drawn back to deliver a punch. She slammed into them, sending them flying, but she did not rest. Kanan continued, moving from drone to drone, accumulating every smash and blow that managed to reach her. From behind, another drone targeted her as Kanan was worried in her struggle, only for that drone to suddenly get grabbed by a large hovering hand, and before she could react, her head was ripped from her shoulders by the other hand, sparks flying from the stump before it fell to the ground with a thud. Brinka deflected a blast of plasma. She used her demon arms to cover the drone's armor with electricity, causing it to explode, and discharge the robots as she knocked down one after another. A drone tried to attack her from behind, only for a fist to shatter the drone's skull. Across the street, a similar situation was playing out as Senri danced around a large group of drones with her katana, stabbing the drones in their eyes and slicing their necks. When a blast of plasma shot towards her, Senri arched her back backwards, deflecting the plasma blast, then made a quick slash charged with demonic power that cut and exploded the drone. The last Lilith created a pair of earth metal golems that smashed and crushed the drones, and also cast an ice spell that sent large spikes of ice shooting up from the ground, impaling multiple drones on each spike, while creating a wall along the street, isolating Rigglezeva's forces. While Dodoji's group fought against Rigglezeva's forces, Saoji used his chain whip that began to cut the drones. Behind the blonde, Kurohoro and Hikage threw several hidden blades that hit some important part of the drones that exploded instantly. After 2 days of almost constant battle, he was fighting conservatively to save energy. Dodoji used a piece of log as a weapon on the approaching horde, jumping and flipping over launched tentacles and plasma blasts, even using his fists to tear them apart. Tsubame with his double sword blocked and cut the drones in an X-shaped manner, thinning them with each explosion. But the horde kept advancing. The black-haired girl with a sly smile used the tree trunk as a mallet and began to swing it with reckless abandon. The hammer blows crushed the drones as if they were paper, and with each blow more fell. Inside the Hokage Tower was now a bustling mess of nurses, doctors and shinobi soldiers, checking on the wounded and battle reports from refugees alike, while military personnel rushed around giving orders. In the center of the room was a large holographic table over which hovered an elegantly dressed man. It was the Marujuka Beelzebub. Lady Tsunade, said the green-haired man in a holographic form. "I'll kill Dono," Tsunade said in a respectful tone. "What is the situation now?" the Maru presumed. "The rest of the village is invaded or is about to be," the busty blonde replied. She stood firm, but noticeable cracks appeared on the immaculate surface. Maru Beelzebub remained silent and looked at the map of the elemental nations that were marked as eliminated by one of Eevee's deities. "How are the evacuations going?" I asked. "More are still arriving at the Hokage Tower. We believe that most of them have already arrived," he replied. So they were silent until Tsunade spoke. "How long will it take for reinforcements to arrive in your world?" he asked with some hope. A few hours ago an emergency meeting was held where a vote was taken to send to the DXD group, Ajuka revealed. "That gives her some hope to see her wife help against Eevee." "When will he arrive?" I asked, slightly upset. In 4 hours," the green-haired boy answered. "Well, I will inform those left of the alliance in my world," said Tsunade. "When Naruto and the DXD group arrive while the refugees and wounded enter the portal, it is no longer a safe place," said Ajuka. "Okay, I'll give orders to my assistant and Hanabi to prepare everything," said the busty blonde. The holographic combination finished, causing Tsunade to sit in her seat. "Suna, Iwa, Kiri and Yuzushio are history, thanks to the report that Samui gave me," she said to no one, while her hands passed over her face. "He also confirms that some of our harem sisters fell before Rigglezeva's force. Fu, Mabui and Anko are the only ones who are traumatized for life." Inside, Tsunade was being invaded by guilt about her decisions that occurred in the dimensional cinema where she mistreated and humiliated the brown-haired man for this manipulated former god Seches. She reminds him a lot of his partner Jiraiya for her perversion of her when they were young. When she met the young man before being manipulated, in her point of view, he reminded her of her ex-lover Dan, about becoming Hokage and Issei in the harem of harem, but something beyond just a harem, he wants to protect everyone. I've hated to admit that Issei had. Big hero with a heart of gold. I don't know, I have a bad feeling, thought Tsunade getting up from the chair to go to the conference room where the rest of the leaders of the Shinobi Alliance were. The XD universe. Dimensional gap. Great Red observed all the destruction that was happening in the world of Naruto. He knew it was only a matter of time before it would be history. Then he felt a presence of someone else from the dimensional gap that was behind the Dream Dragon God. Red turned his head to look at the guest. Chapter 11. The XD universe. Castle Ajuka hours before the mission. As Beelzebub had called an immediate meeting after receiving a message from Tsunade about the invasion of Wrigglezeva's force. I'm sorry to interrupt what's being done, said the green-haired man to the leaders. I'm sorry, Ajuka Hanzo said seriously. Let's get to the heart of the matter, Razor said equally seriously. Well, as you know, 12 hours ago I received a message from Lady Tsunade that her world is being invaded, she informed the leaders who were surprised, but more so Sakura and Sarada. Ajuka-sama, who are they? Asked Sasuke's ex-wife with a feeling of concern. One of the Eevees, the green-haired boy answered. The castle room with blank minds, except for Razor and Hanzo, and increasingly wide eyes, everyone fell into an eerie silence when one of the four Mao of threat was going to come to their world. How lucky that X and his brothers have given us the information, Razor thought as they had a memory after the green-haired boy's message. Flash black. The former Phoenix Heir and Council President was with Issei's son with a device that the Issei of the future gave him. He was amazed that the three gods EZ was a threat that he cannot play due to his powers and ability that he has. Immense strength. Speed, durability and invulnerability. Manipulation of higher dimensions. Deformation of reality. Space-time blocking. Divine technology manipulation. Destruction of the soul. Energy absorption. Our draft. What caught the most attention is Eevee aura that can rival Issei from the future, plus with the captures of the fight where the chestnut is versus some Eevee's deities at their maximum power, that opened up a possibility of revealing about the existence of the supernatural with humanity. That's bad, said Hanzo, seeing the information. Yes, that Wrigglezeva decapitated Great Red before invading Earth, said Iris seriously. So, that means, Razor said in a more serious tone. Yes, Great Red is going to be decapitated, although Wrigglezeva is in the world of shitty blonde, and it is possible that she sent her brother to do the job, said Shin. Adding that he has resurrection and immortality, said Razor's niece. Now the world of False Hero is being invaded by its leaders, I estimate that it will be conquered in a few hours, said Modred. Well, I don't blame him, Kuroka's daughter said, shrugging her shoulders. With the level he has, he doesn't hesitate to run away, said X. I agree with that, Razor said and laughed. Thanks for the information, guys, I'm glad it was you who gave it, said Hanzo. It's nothing, said Roswis's daughter with a smile. We will go to Ajuka Castle, so you will stay, said the blonde to his nephew. Everyone agreed, and then the two adults walked into a magic circle. Then flashback. Do you have an image or recording? Male said to Ajuka. Anabi sent me everything, said the green-haired man to activate a holographic recording. From the recording one could see the destruction of Uzushio and Konoha at the hands of the ex-god's force. The faction leaders were instantly overwhelmed by the brutality of Wrigglezeva's strength, power, and overall abilities. By God, Gabriel said, horrified by the death of innocent people. I might be rid, said Odin, shocked. That's a real hell, said Azazel. While Sakura and Sarada had fainted and another vomited due to the cruelty of the evil deity, Naruto instead tried not to vomit when he saw the death of his wife from his homeworld. Well, how much time will we have? Asked a green Seraphol who wanted to vomit. The invasion has lasted a day or less, answered his companion Mao. Well, I sent the DXD group to the Naruto world, the Redeed proposed. I don't think it's a good idea, said Razor. Also, it's not ready, Hanzo contributed. Can I handle the threat? They are Naruto, the pillar of the factions, the children of prophecy, said Naruto, still supported by his harem. On the other hand, not so much that, rolling your eyes like Gabriel, Penemu, Akeno, Irina, Rias, Michael, Azazel and Razor. I propose Tobio's group, said Azazel. No, it's Naruto-kun's job, Seraphol intervened. Let's take a vote, said Ajuka. Thus began a vote where Naruto had the majority while Tobio was little Hanzo, Razor, Michael, Shemazai, Azazel, Mail and Nuriel tied the vote of blonde. I see there is a tie vote, said Yusaka. Well, it remains as follows. Naruto's group is Alpha and Tobio's group is Omega, the mission is simple. Save whoever you can, said Hanzo. The portal will be activated in an hour, I'll let you make your attack plans, said the Riti to the two groups. Thus ended the meeting of the factions. Suddenly Office and Lilith came out of the portal very upset and scared. I have bad news about the dimensional gap, said the dragon goddess, taking the leaders by surprise with the revelation. Hours before the faction meeting. Dimensional gap. In the dimensional gap, a battle had begun between Great Red and robotic humanoid beings, where the dragon god's body bounced several times while slowing down with each bounce after the invader prepared for another attack with his sword arm. Granted, he was N'(T) fully prepared for the first one, but in his defense of him, he had no idea the robotic humanoid being was so fast. Broho knew that defeating the invader would take a lot more than brute strength to win. The humanoid appeared before him once again in a flash of green flames and stood there staring at him with a blank look on his face. This is your last chance, surrender, said the dragon god gasping in pain. No, my older brother ordered me to kill myself, said the emotionless humanoid being. Who is he? Asked Great Red. Riggles-Eva is the leader of the EVs, he replied. Great Red opened his eyes wide at the revelation, as he did not expect the arrival of the gods Issei, since he was indirectly present with Issei's children with Razor. So you are, he said in a shaky voice. I am his younger brother, my name is Malvazoa, said Malvazoa, revealed pointing with his sword arm. You Great Red are a potential threat to the EV, said the humanoid. But that draconian prayer reaches the larva, it is the last way to return the favor, thought Rojos. He uses his claws to write in the Latin dragon language. And the name dragon god gave Issei Himura as the new dragon god. Issei, I recommend the mission to you, I don't believe Naruto, much less Urzuch's. But those words shining, they went to where Issei was. It's time for me to show my power, said Great Red, expelling his power from him, while the god of the EVs was smiling that his job from him was not going to be as boring as he thought. Enough with these games. Now it's time for your death. Malvazoa covered EVs with her sword arm. He set to work to forge one to use on his sword to amplify its power 100-fold. The deity took out his aura that he made for this exact moment and bit down on it to trigger the reaction. He extended his sword arm so that the charging chamber would be uncovered and charged his aura. Once in place, Malvazoa pierced the ground with her sword arm and unleashed her power. Brohos was not left behind, he threw a breath of fire to collide with Eevee's aura, causing an explosion in the entire dimensional gap, where he took advantage of the human curtain to make two movements to end the life of the dragon god. Cut the head from the shoulders and second from the shoulder to the rib, along with his dragon wings, who fell in slow motion, and there in the distance a portal opens where both lowly come out. Office and Lilith felt the aura of Great Red was slowly decreasing, so they advanced faster against finding a scene that scared him a lot, since he had never experienced fear since Trihexa. Malvazoa looks at the two goddesses, wanted to kill them, but remembered that his mission was to kill Great Red. He leaves there, leaving both of them shocked. Naruto Universe. The DxD group led by Naruto arrived at destroyed Konoha, while Tobio's team went to the Hokage Tower for help with the evacuation to the DxD world. The two shinobi groups were very exhausted and were helped by Aika, Saji, Gaspar and Tobio to destroy some magic drones that were approaching. On the other side of the village, Riggles-Eva was walking without concern as he mercilessly killed the Alliance soldiers. Then he felt several magical presences in this world. Then he thought that he was from the chestnut. He teleports where you are. The group shot down the drones. Naruto and the DxD group felt the presence of the deity Eevees, who was a few meters away from them. He walked slowly on top of the destroyed robotic bodies, as if nothing had happened. Naruto, who was inside Drake's armor, was feeling fear, and the same thing that happened with the other members. His instincts told him to flee. You are the leader of those robots, said Naruto. You are the Consecuencia, he said monotonously, watching the DxD group. Yes, I am the great Naruto Uzumaki, and I have come for revenge against my wife. Pointing with a claw. Something's not right, someone altered the timeline, thought the deity Eevees. Well, no matter what, the result will be the same without the help of the children of Consecuencia, his eyes shining brightly. To start the battle between Naruto versus Riggles-Eva, where Naruto used his dragon wings with the Ascalon sword on his arm, while his enemy summoned his sword to block Rubio's attack, the battle began. The Golden Titan hit his head on Naruto's forehead with all his strength. With the blonde stunned by the blow, the deity grabbed him by the leg and threw him towards the wall that was behind his harem, who wanted help, but his body did not move due to the manipulation of the gravitational force. You inferior beings, don't involve me in your fight, said Riggles-Eva. A huge cloud of dust covered the Uzumaki. Suddenly inside the smoke, a green order shone that was going towards the Golden Titan, who deflected it with his hands, causing an explosion that took advantage of the fact that Naruto was in queen mode. You want to continue, human, said the deity. Naruto didn't say anything. He once again threw himself into the fight. The XD Universe. Katanashima Island. On an island where Issei was going to spend his honeymoon sometime, now it was his home away from the coast of Tokyo and Kao. Inside the island there was a very large cabin. And below the cabin there was a different training field where Issei Himura was watching Boruto with his katana, who was meditating on top of the rocks after a training session. Suddenly Issei's body acted strange, as if it were going to shine. That made the former Uzumaki interrupt his meditation to see his stepfather's, who was shining brightly, but Issei was very calm and didn't know who it was, since it was the flesh of Great Red who supposedly removed it but in reality never removed it, forming a semi-farce. Since he was not stupid like Office was before such as true colors. They received the last message from the late Great Red, named as the new dragon god. That meant something, since he was the chosen one of the goddess Chichigami. It was time to come out of retirement very soon. Two magic circles opened to see Razor and Hanzu with serious expressions, along with another figure unknown to Issei and his family. Back to the world of Naruto. Naruto was kneeling and panting heavily as his armor was destroyed and cut by the deity Eevee's sword. His sword Ascalon was completely broken in some attacks by Rigoviza, who was indifferent before the Uzumaki. "You are disappointing," said the Golden Titan with his sword covered in blood. "You're not even at my level, I see that you're trash," he said coldly. "Shut up," Naruto roared, some sadness rising. "He's in no condition to fight," said Rigoviza. "I said shut up," said the blonde again to give other attacks. The Titan saw it predictable. With one hand he stopped Naruto's fist, who counterattacked with a super punch that destroyed the building with the blonde's body. Naruto tried to stop, but it was impossible, and what was Mount Hokage crashed. Rias' former entourage had arrived to help their companion Citri, who suffered damage from some of Rigoviza's attacks. Asia healed with her De'ella sacred gear, with the help of Ravel with Phoenix Tears, Sona, who had been helped by her De'ella Queen Tsubaki. The Kendo and Arena remained on the sidelines. Suddenly in Sona's ear, a magic circle from her family came out, who spoke to her older sister with some instructions just for them that brought out an evil smile on the younger Citri. She communicated with Naruto, who was coming out of the crater in the wall of Mount Hokage. Ria's former queen friend approached where Sona was. "You feel better now?" said the brunette to the black-haired girl with glasses. "Yes, I received a notification from the leaders," Sona informed Akeno. "Is the evacuation over yet?" Issei's former childhood friend asked. "The new one is," Sona answered with a devilish smile. "Removed from the mission," said Naruto, leaving the damaged magic circle. "Huh? Why?" Irina confused said. "You're leaving the innocent person," Akeno said to her ex-fiancé. "Yes, it's a waste of time to save everyone," the blonde replied. "Go to our true colors," said ex-angel. "Also you are going to stay here too," said Naruto, indicating the order to some Citri members. Amo approaches Asia's back of her and makes a cut with her katana, then Rukuro kicks Kaneko in her stomach, sending her flying into a destroyed building. Shirin Kuroka shouted, but also received the kicked gaze of the pawn Citri. Sarada knocked out the former Valkyrie, followed by Sakura also applying La Fey, and Zenobia was going to attack, but Tsubaki used her Naginata to knock her down and be finished off by Momo. Ria took out Ravel on the way. For their part, Volley's team was going to help their partner, but they were attacked by treachery by an unknown person. Volley saw the office who was responsible. The goddess mercilessly killed Sun and Arthur, who made the last Lucifer despair, but he was knocked out by the goddess. The same thing happens in the Hokage Tower, where Tiamat defeated the two shinobi groups because they were a threat, the previous Cage dying brutally at the hands of the ponytailed Mayu who arrived, leaving Tsunade almost alive, who looked at him with hatred. "Bastards, why do you betray us?" I asked Seraphil with hatred. Seraphil spoke. "We have already done our job, and we will also signal the portal for our safety," he replied casually. "Are you going to leave us here in the hands of the robots?" questioned the busty blonde. "Yes, it's not personal, and as I said before, it's for our safety," said Seraphil. The magic circle opens to see Naruto with his entourage of Sona, Sakura and Sarada, plus Office carrying Volley, as if he were a sack of potatoes. Naruto said Tsunade upon seeing her husband. Naruto didn't say anything, and the same with Sakura and Sarada. Then Seraphil spoke. "They got rid of the obstacles," said the Mayu to blonde Uzumaki. "Yes, although Akeno and Arena gave us a fight," Sona informed her older sister of her. "It doesn't matter if they are traitors to the alliance," said Seraphil. "On this world is going to be destroyed," said Office emotionlessly. The rest of the DXD group with the Mayu entered the portal and closed it. "Naruto, damn bucking bastard, abandoned us," I screamed at the top of my lungs. While in the destroyed districts, Akeno and Arena were inside a ramen shop. There they hid for the moment. There they met Tobio's team, who were also attacked by the Infinite Goddess, informed of the betrayal. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for both women. She had abandoned us as a sacrifice. Well, that bucking blonde ran away. That's not a hero but a fraud. They all went to the tower to find the body of the dead survivors on the ground and a member of the Shinobi Alliance, but they continued to arrive under the tower where the portal was closed and Tsunade fainted from Seraphal's attacks. He quickly helped the busty blonde, leaving everyone extremely angry, but especially Saji and Gasper. He had no longer formed a way to return to his universe, left trapped on the brink of destruction. While Regal Visa felt a magical presence and looked up at the sky, he was seeing a dragon-shaped Viking ship. Ryudomaru is familiar with Issei Himura. OVA 1. What happened to Issei? Years after the exile. Issei and his fiancée Hinata with their children established the island as their new home, and also the brown-haired boy began working on his console video game project without disregarding the title, where one time they were found by Razor Phoenix, who would be the next Mao Dot. The former heir of the clan and former pillar of the factions with his respective partner having dinner at the Chestnut Cabin, Razor apologizes profusely to his friend on behalf of his family and also shows him the video of Naruto's failed presentation before the demons and other factions. Issei and Hinata laughed as the blonde Uzumaki was not accepted by the children, and it also made the brown-haired boy smile, since his fans were loyal. Razor told his friend that their relationship between them was not going to change at all. Issei was very grateful and was also invited to his wedding with Yubaluna. Hinata accepts the couple's invitation. Some time later Issei met his uncle Iruka before the Christmas party. Iruka asks his nephew, "How have you been?" Our protagonist answers that he has well-bought gifts for his children. Iruka was surprised that he had children, since he and his mother knew that his nephew had a harem when he asked if they were children of his fiancées of him. The brown-haired boy was silent to answer that they are not any of her, but of his new partner. Iruka noticed that his nephew's look was gloomy. That happens to him to say that he was invited to the family party, and there he agreed to talk. Issei accepted the invitation. At night, Chiaki received her grandson and his partner and son at the Himura residence. Issei was very happy to see his grandmother a long time ago, since the death of Juzo Haidu. The old woman Himura saw Hinata, the former Hyuga was still when suddenly she was hugged by the older woman, who thanked her for taking care of Issei's life. Hinata told her that it was he who saved her and gave her a home from her ex-husband, Boruto, and Himawari also approached where Chiaki was. She didn't hesitate to hug the two who accepted the hug from a grandmother. During the family dinner, Issei and Hinata told everything that had happened in that dimensional cinema in the hands of that son of a bitch Seches and Naruto Uzumaki, as it was his hell where he and they were beaten to death, humiliated by everyone. When he returned they took everything from him to give it to Naruto, as he was expelled from the supernatural world by the leaders. The same with Hinata and her children in their world. The matriarchal Iruka had no words for what she was hearing when Hinata calmed Himawari, who cried for reliving those bad memories of the dimensional cinema. Chiaki's expression darkened at such revelations, the same with Iruka, since they have a rule about family betrayals. The last time it happened was a descendant of the Himura, where one of the sons had the audacity to betray the clan against the invaders in Edo time. The unspeakable payment with his death at the hands of his father who cut off his head. Locked him away in a place far from the family cemetery and erased his history. The matriarch stood up from her seat and hugged her grandson, apologizing for his former father's actions. Issei accepted the hug as he loved his grandfather very much, despite the fact that his grandmother had Juzo under control when he was a pervert, followed by his uncle, who also made him take action against Goro and Miki for an act of treason. The brown-haired boy told Iruka that nothing happened to his former father mattered anymore. Chiaki asked her grandson if he was married. He replied no, since he couldn't get married in a church. The matriarch said that she can marry, since she has contact in Arab lands. Hinata thanks the older woman very much, but the aforementioned that she does not have to thank is a Christmas gift, since they are now members of the Himura clan after the party. A year later, the video game was released to the market as Elden Ring, thanks to meeting Miyazaki, creator of Dark Souls, and George R.R. Martin in person, who was interested in Issei's project, who negotiated how to share the profit and ending up signed. Issei was generating money for his family, so he took the opportunity to travel to different places with Hinata and his children. He also ran into Zenovia's old master, Vasco, who hunted some renegade demon, both former spoken weapon comrade. Vasco proposed to the brown-haired man to be an instructor in the warrior nun organization. He accepted the job, but in exchange that Boruto and Himawari also be trained by him. The exorcist accepted Issei's emergence. Issei continued traveling, and now in Mexico, where he was at a convention to promote his video game. During his stay, he had learned of the closing of the Cow Academy, which brought a smile. However, fate had other plans. Issei was going to his hotel, where he heard a cry for help. He did not hesitate to go to the alley and found a surprise who turned out to be Murayama, who was going to be raped by those guys. The brown-haired boy launched an attack on the hex offenders. The former kendo member was shocked to see the former pervert who was saving her life. When Issei beating finished her and that guy ran away like a rat, Issei approaches to see how Murayama was doing if she had any injuries. She answers that she did not and thanks him for saving her. The brown-haired girl took the opportunity to apologize for all the damage she did in the past. Issei forgave him. They both went to the hotel. Murayama had changed her point of view about Issei. Since she had found out from her parents that the Himura helped her get a scholarship when she was competing in kendo. So she and Issei became friends, and everyone knew the situation that had to happen. Murayama was very horrified with every word that the brown-haired boy said, and also Hinata when she went to the island every 3 months. Now she knew the truth, and she don't hesitate to curse Naruto and that bitch. Issei began to release Boruto, since he was his son, and the best idea was to give him a katana from the dwarf world of the Nordic land. The blonde accepted his father's gift. Himawari also trained with her mother with another type of martial art courtesy of Vasco, where the blue-haired girl turned out to be a genius in hand-to-hand combat. Diablo completely beat up some renegade exorcist who broke his rib that sent him to the hospital. Issei was very aware of the situation of the factions, since his former cowhide Gasper and the others who never betrayed him for the blonde Uzumaki went to the island where they made an improvised party, also with the unexpected arrival of Tannen and his son Bova. The brown-haired man was informed that the Greek faction broke out in a civil war where the Hades faction won and the alliance with some gods, but Hades did not doubt much since some servants of Eves finished off all of them for betrayal of the alliance. In addition to the rise of Razor as Mayu and Hanzu as president of the council, the latter got to know Issei in a secret meeting, where the leader of the Sargatanas clan made an apology on behalf of the council and presentation of the demon for the actions of the four Mayu. The brown-haired man accepted the apology, establishing an alliance with the permission to kill renegade demon. In addition, Issei had not stopped training since he discovered a way of fighting like Dragonverse. Since his master Tannen helped as a new regime in the secret training camp, Boruto also joined since he performed a special ritual for him and his sister so that it would be Issei's blood, unlinking all the genes of Uzumaki and Hyuga, so Boruto was already half dragon. Where his master Bova, who was a fan of Issei when he was the op-ace dragon. Some time later, Issei arrived and had an apprentice whose name was Balbrith and his sister who were found in the old Risavum facilities, and another boy Nakari, the heir of a golden beast from Tokyo. The brown-haired boy was tough with the artificial and young super demon who adapted to training with his mentor. While his sister of the aforementioned trained alongside Himawari who made them rivals. Issei had already learned of some of Naruto's humiliations at the hands of Saraerg, Hanzu and Gasper, as well as about the new change of leaders of heaven, while Grigori remains the same, although it was striking that Gabriel and Penemu were becoming governors of a new species of fall only for women. He had also learned how his grandmother Deella went to the former Haidu residence, where she completely repudiated her former father Deella, taking away everyone Deella, and her uncle Deella forced her to sign the document with her blood Deella, indicating that she was no longer part of the Himura clan. After that, Gasper had become the new leader of the vampires, and her first task was to exile Elmahil to Japan, since in Romania she was not welcome to the vampires, so she tried to fight, but her efforts were in vain, and she went to Kao. Present. Issei was in his cabin with Hinata after having Hex for 5 hours, since his wife wanted to have another little brother for Boruto and Himawari. I think the exile was a bad thing, since I swallowed good things, said the brown-haired boy in his bed. Hinata said sleepily. Issei closed his eyes to sleep and continued his training before the arrival of the Eevees. Chapter 12 Part 1. Issei was staring blankly while his arm was crossed. Razor and Hanzu were extremely serious. None of the three spoke until the brunette. Hello Razor, Issei said to his friend about him. So does Hanzu-sama, he said respectfully. A mutual feeling, young Himura said Hanzu, who shook hands with the brown-haired boy. What have you come for? The brown-haired boy asked the president. Before we explain the mission to you, we want to give you a surprise, Razor said with a smile. They both stepped aside to pass the group of people. Issei didn't understand what was happening, so one of them went to hug the brown-haired boy. Dad, said a crying blonde. Dad. Don't tell me what they are, Issei thought. I know what you're thinking, we're your children, said to a black-haired man who shed a tear. That confirms the presence I felt in Kao, said Issei. Yes, we're sorry to have found you like this, but it's nice to meet you, Dad said X. It doesn't matter, you are my children, Issei said with a smile. Irie, Shin and Robertina went with their father's stepson who made a difference. Thank you for taking care of my father, said Irie. You were by his side of him, said the younger brown-haired boy. It's nothing, on the contrary, he gave my sister and my mother a home, Boruto said with a smile. So we had a conversation for about 15 minutes between Issei's son and his father, where the brown-haired boy heard the alternative life of the future, where he was one of the Mayu due to the new system, and then left office to be the new dragon god. Also Issei became sad with X's relationship because his alternate self was busy with his family, which made him feel like Goku in his time, but X and Boruto put their hands on their father's shoulders. "Dad, I don't want to feel like this," said X, half worried. "Yes, but I feel like I've failed as a father or even Issei was interrupted. "Don't compare yourself to this man," Himawari shouted before everyone's gaze. "True, we understand that it was your obligation as a pillar of the facts, and our mothers told us only to protect us," Ernestine said seriously. Issei's other children agreed. "You are right, young Issei," said Hanzu. "You N''T torment yourself anymore, you have proven to be a better father than his miserable sperm donors like Goru," said Razor to his friend brother of him. The chestnut regained his spirits. "Gracie," said with a smile. "That's what friends are for," said the blonde. "Enough of sentimentality, come here to tell him something," Issei said to the two. "Yes, but it takes time to explain what happened," said the president of the council. "We will also go, it is our obligation," said Issei's eldest son. So everyone left the training room to go to the living room of the house where everyone took their seats while someone stood. "First of all, we will explain the situation," said the black-haired man to those present. "As you may know, we had an unexpected visit from other beings in the middle of the wedding," said Razor. "You N''T tell me what happened to Naruto and his bitches," said Issei with blank eyes. His future children didn't bother to answer since they were also upset with their mother. "Exactly," said the blonde to his friend. "Who is that person?" Madrid asked curiously. "The goddess Shichigami," answered Hanzu. Boruto and Himawari are confused about the goddess of breasts, except for her future children who had the information about her and the importance she has in the war against the X. "Nai-sama, don't let it be," said Irie. "If the goddess of breasts has come to warn about the X, or am I wrong, Uncle Razor?" said the black-haired man with utmost seriousness. "It's in the corrector, nephew," said Razor. "It was she who warned him, however Issei, there are two pieces of news that he needs to know," she said seriously. Issei was very attentive to what his friend was going to say. "The scum of God has lost his position, and also another person with the same status as Shichigami made the changes to Michael and Gabriel due to their betrayal toward you," said the blonde. "Problem solved," said the brown-haired boy with a smile. "But it also brought consequences to the X," said the Mao. "And another one starts," he said seriously. "To understand the situation, you need to find out what happened to Hades and the rest of the Greek gods," said the president of the council. "Yes, all dying," Issei answered. "Well, it was the work of the X, although we couldn't feel their presence, but there was only one entity that could feel it," the Mao contributed. "And it would be from Gran Rojos," the brown-haired man finished. "It would be the obstacle for them, I said that to the others as well as Naruto," said Hanzu. "But knowing the bastard well, he can handle everyone without having to train against the X," Issei said bitterly. "In that meeting of factions his name was going to be mentioned, but we were interrupted by a portal of nothing," said Razor. Issei's first son took the floor. "Where we made our first appearance in front of our mother, the leaders and this fraud," said the black-haired man. "The blonde with the cat face asked us arrogantly who we were." Irie continued. "Madrid answered them that we don't talk to strangers," said Shin, remembering Naruto's angry face. "So Azazel asked us the question who his parents were," said Robertina. "We all answered that he was the son of Sekirute," said Zen. "Naruto very confident that he was supposed to be his son, or am I wrong?" said Issei. "The late great Red and Rias Okasama knew that the others," said Kurenai. "That blonde gave us a look as if he had become a father again," said the silver-haired girl. "Ha. I doubt very much without something I have learned during our experience that he prefers to be in the office instead of being at home," said Boruto, remembering some occasions when his ex-father forgets his birthday several times. "From there we each made our introduction before revealing the surname Haidu, but this surname has only stained the name of great-grandfather Juzo," Ernestine Stokely. "The former Seraphine Gabriel asked us if she came from the future," said the purple-haired man. "Kurenai Nai replied that we were from an alternative line," said the black-haired girl. "And Rias Okasama wanted to check if we were from the future," said Shin. "From there all the disasters began," said Archer with a gloomy expression, something that was noticed by Issei, who saw him clench his hand. "No, Lady Ravel thought he was Naruto's son," said the daughter of Issei and Kaneko. "Although I must admit that Akeno Okasama refuses to have a child with this bastard," said the black-haired man. "I have to give him credit," Issei said, somewhat surprised that X came out to defend his son from another timeline. "But that's not all, the bastard tried to hug him as if we were his," Shin said with a serious expression. "X punched him into the wall," said Madrid, showing the photo to his father, who laughed, followed by Boruto. "What happened after I threw the punch?" asked Issei, who stopped laughing. "I try to give it a good moral," said Helwich sarcastically. Hanzu-sama intervened by making the cat-faced blonde take his place, Kurobara said. "We asked him what happened to you?" said Madrid. They only gave us a negative response that talks about you and included his rival and Uncle Sursages. I guess he is no longer our uncle, said Irie. And what about your mother Irina and Akeno? The brown-haired boy asked. Our mother is silent, she had no right over you, who was to blame, the same with Michael-sama, Azazel-sama, Gabriel-sama and Penemu-sama, answered the blonde vampire. We told him our real last name, I guess it has no value for us anymore, said Zen with venom for mentioning that last name. And what were their reactions? Asked his adoptive brother. Rias Okasama cried with happiness, but the others were in shock, others refused to believe, and others fainted, answered Shin. I'd like to see it, if you have it recorded, said Boruto. No problem, brother, said Zen, who took out his cell phone to show the photo of the revelation, making the blonde laugh like a hyena that fell to the ground. And what was Uzumaki's reaction? The brown-haired boy asked seriously. His reaction was one of rage and anger towards being the son of an alternate future, Father X responded. We also took the opportunity to ask ourselves what he was doing in the place of our mothers, said Modred. None of the leaders and not even his ex-partner wanted to answer his son's question, either I or Hanzu wanted to tell the truth, said Razor. Who was it that revealed the betrayal? Issei asked. It was Rias Okasama who revealed to us everything that happened in that dimensional cinema, with the help of the testimonies of Auden and Michael, who thought that Naruto was going to be a better catch than you, explained. Robertina answered her father's question, but she mentioned Rubio as if it were an insult to her. The deceased dragon god of the dream was confirming to us what happened, that they had given themselves to him, because she already had Uzumaki's essence inside her, said Irie. We demanded explanations and again they did not want to answer, but again Irina and Akeno Okasama confirmed to us, said Zen. And your mother Rias? Asked the former pillar of the faction seriously. Issei, are you sure you want to do? Razor said, somewhat worried. Yes, I want it, you know that she never betrayed me for fear that I would do something in the hands of this bastard, god, said Issei. Okay, said the Mau with a sigh. She was graped by Naruto with Sursage's permission to Ella, and Naruto insulted her sons to Ella by calling them weak, the blonde replied. The room was in a deathly silence, the aura that was released along with a terrified aura, along with a thirst for blood from Chestnut's body, the aura was so great covering the entire island, and even the alliance leaders were feeling it because of the immense power that Issei was releasing. Underworld. Slaughter Castle. The green-haired Mau was with Azazel. It was very difficult for him to stay standing due to the absurd amount of power he was feeling at that moment, not even Ajuka's guards fainted. Now Naruto is really screwed, and like Sursage's, Issei already found out what they did to Rias. Thought the black-haired man with a blonde streak had several drops of sweat on his head. Naruto Uzumaki, I'm going to kill you, Issei exclaimed in anger, cracking the floor and part of the chair. Calm down, Issei, or else you will draw the attention of the faction, said Hanzu. Issei stopped releasing that aura of death since he didn't want to see those bastards, but his daughter came over to hug him to calm him down a bit. At least there is a positive side, said Razor. What is this positive side? The brown-haired boy questioned. Well, you see, when we found out, some of us wanted to kill him, but X stepped forward to beat him up, answered his first oldest son of him. X, what your brother says is true, said Issei. That's right, Dad, even though we don't have a good relationship, and I gave him that beating in your name, said the redeed. Well, that calms me down a little, but I also want to make that bastard suffer, said the brown-haired boy who had a sadistic smile on his face. Your children are in my care, said the blonde to his friends. After that meeting, all the facts have been put on alert in case the X attack, said Hanzu. I see, I started preparing before his arrival, Issei said. Yes, however Ajuka warned us that Naruto's homeworld was being attacked by its leader, said Razor. That caught the attention of the two former Uzumaki. How serious? Boruto asked. In just 2 days, Rigelvisa's force destroyed everything in its path, reported, answered Razor, showing everything to the blonde and his sister. Lady Tsunade contacted Ajuka to save the survivors, said Hanzu. We had a meeting about which team to send there and also take advantage of the information on the three's abilities, said Razor. How powerful are those three? Said Issei. Enough to kill the most powerful beings in the top 10, I think Hades and Great Red felt their power, said the president of the council. And to mention that his skills are hacked, said X, showing again the recording of his future self's battle versus one of the 3X. We did a vote and it was a tie. Sursages nominated Naruto and the other members of DXD, while I and Hanzu, Azazel, Mail, and Michael chose Tobio's team as backup for the mission, said Razor. Both teams left for Naruto's world, although we suspect the hidden intentions of Naruto and his allies, said Hanzu. I imagine that his intentions were not to help Tsunade and the survivors and to betray Tobio's team so that he could escape, the brown-haired boy deduced. You are right, so we asked you to do the mission, otherwise you are busy, said the Mau. Issei didn't say anything, he got up from the chair and spoke again. It's time to do the work, said the brown-haired boy. Back to Konoha, present day. Issei was seeing the panorama of what was Konoha now, almost total destruction, and behind him was his children who also came. I will give the following order, said the brown-haired boy without turning around. Kurenai, Shin and Archer tracked down their mother and Team Tobio. The three mentioned took a step forward. We will, said the three, teleported in a magic circle. Irie, Robertina and Himawari, go to the tower and bring everyone to Ryudomaru, he said to the two blonde and the dark blue-haired girl. Yes sir, he obeyed his father's order. Zen accompanies Ernestine, Shirayuki, Kurabara to evacuate the robot horde and find survivors, bring them to the ship. The four understood the order. While Modred and Helmwich take control of Ryudomaru, the aforementioned attending with a military salute. X and Boruto, I want you to go to the Hokage cemetery, take out some of Minato and Kushina's remains, put it in a special container, since Grandma will give it a special place. The Redeed and X Uzumaki had a look of determination. Well, I will go for the final boss, said Issei, who had transformed into his Dragonforce, using low wings towards where the yellow EVs were who were destroying the rest of the city. Meanwhile at the Hokage tower, the busty blonde looks out to see a ship that was flying over her village. She thought it was an enemy of those robots. Suddenly a magic circle opened, everything was her with the others. Tsunade opened her eyes to recognize who was there with two blondes. On the other side of the village, Tamanin and Senrin's group was exhausted, while the magician had put up a magic barrier hiding from the robots. Dodoji was almost out of energy like the others. Lilith, how long will the barrier take? Asked the black-haired woman. About 5 minutes maximum, answered the blonde. None of us are in any condition to fight anymore, said the albino, seeing her almost destroyed demon arms. Are there any distress signals from Lady Tsunade? The green-haired girl asked in a monotonous tone. According to what one of the Anbu said, help shouldn't take long, said Kanan. Among them was the savior Naruto, said Senri. Something tells me he's not coming to help him, said Yatsu, narrowing his gaze. Why do you say that? Asked the blonde with red eyes. A few hours ago I felt some aura of chakra and magical power in two groups that were here. Two were from this world, and the rest were from another world that would be demons, humans and another race that I don't know, but something caught my attention, Lilith answered. What caught your attention? Said the curious brunette with her red beret. Within that group there was a dragon power that was enough to kill them all, although inferior to the robotic titan that would surpass it by many, Dodoji said seriously. Hey everyone, look up there, said Spusum, pointing to the sky. They all turned to see a dragon-shaped ship. It's my idea, I see a ship that is blown up, said Hikage. I think I've seen a lot of things during my career as a Tamanin, but never a floating ship, said the blue-haired girl incredulously. I feel several magical presences in different places, said the blonde. It will be the help, said the white black-haired girl. There is a way to find out, Yatsu said seriously. Several people attended hoping for salvation. With Kurenai's group. Issei's three children were arriving on the main street where several businesses were destroyed and another collapsed like the police station. This place is completely devastated, said Shin. Shin, you should be distracted from concentrating on finding our mother, said his older brother. Archer, can you feel Aunt Suzaku's presence like the others? Said Kurenai. Yes, we were close inside some premises, said the purple-haired man. Let's not waste time, look inside, but one of us has to stay outside to attack Rigelvisa's robots or Sarasilb's dragons, said the black-haired man. I offer myself, said Archer. So Shin and I entered that establishment, said Kurenai. Both brothers entered Ichiraku almost destroyed. While with Boruto and X arrived at the Konoha cemetery, where both had observed that the forest of death was lifeless due to the EV's attacks, the blonde and Redeed walked without noticing Rigelvisa's drones. Where are your grandfather's bodies? X asked. If I remember correctly, Okasama told me that there is a special section for the Hokage where their bodies are, Boruto replied, pointing to the flame-shaped stone. There are his remains, so let's hurry, he said, starting to run, followed by the Redeed. Zen's group went to the Aburam and Senju clan area, where the fight began with a more robust version of the robots, where their arm had an ounces. The blue-haired boy with his sword Durandal III easily decapitated the robots, while the daughter of Issei and Elmenhild created various blood saws that destroyed some robots. Kurabara and Shirayuki destroyed the team. Several minutes later, the four had finished, however Zen just felt several premonitions that he was on Mount Hokage. The four quickly went only to find their mother knocked out, Bali out of commission, and the lifeless bodies of Arthur and Biku, remembering his father's order to bring any survivors, that means their mothers. The blue-haired man orders the blonde to make a magic circle to bring everyone to Ryudomaru. The group teleported towards the ships. Chapter 12 Final part. With Issei. The chestnut was flying over, then he saw Rigelziva, who was destroying the Hyuga and Saratobi area. Issei accelerated his speed. While yellow EVs will destroy everything in their path, he suddenly felt a presence, and it seemed familiar to him. He stopped destroying and turned around to look at how far away Issei was. He raised his right arm and turned into a rather modest cannon. He fired an energy projectile towards where the brown-haired boy was. Issei notices that something is coming towards him and takes advantage of evading the shot, going to the right, causing the energy projectile to explode. The brown-haired boy gained stronger momentum, creating a shockwave dot. With full speed, Issei crashed into the ground, creating a curtain of smoke and dust in front of Wriggles Eva. Inside that curtain a figure with red eyes could be seen. Issei shouted. "Brigalaviza!" exclaimed the former Consecuencia. "So you've arrived, Haidu," Issei said, the yellow EVs causing Issei to make a disgusted face at the mention of the surname Haidu. "Yes, he only comes to save the survivors of this world," Issei said seriously. "He also came to beat him up while he gets into battle." Brigalaviza did T say anything, who she began to laugh evilly. "You? A dragon defeated me," said the yellow EVs. Issei used his speed right next to Wriggles Eva and hit him in the face, sending him flying into a building. The yellow titan rose from the rubble and looked at the brown-haired boy with hatred. Issei launched himself towards him, creating fireballs in his claws, causing an explosion in the surroundings of the old Hyuga's complex. With X and Naruto. The blonde created a dragon claw and began to dig in his grandparents' grave, while X watched for an enemy. The former Uzumaki finished digging, only to find the two coffins with the Konoha symbol. Naruto easily pulled each of the coffins to the ground. He watched both of them fall down to say a prayer. "I apologize, Grandpa and Grandma, for desecrating your graves, but I want to lock him up in a better place, because this world has ceased to exist. I don't want that bastard father to pay for his sins," thought the blonde. After finishing prayer, Naruto summons a pocket dimension to carefully put both coffins in. "It's over," said X without looking at his adoptive brother. "I'm done," said Naruto. "Well, it's time for us to leave," said the redeed. He couldn't finish because a horde of robot dragons had arrived in front of them. "It seems we have an unwanted guest," said the blonde who untied his katana. "True, it's going to take us a little longer," said X with a predatory smile, who also takes out his swords. Both brothers launched themselves into attacking the robotic dragons. Meanwhile, Ryudomaru had transformed into a black-red combat battleship with several ballistic cannons and anti-aircraft turrets and a magic shield that covered the entire battleship. The silver film took control, while Modred had control of the weapons to destroy the horde of EV dragons he was trying to take down. "Do I need a report?" Helmwich asked. "The magic shield is at full capacity, the towers are ready to be used," said the blonde. "Irie, how are the wounded?" said her sister. "Some are fine while the others are seriously injured, and we couldn't save others in time," answered Asia's daughter. "And Lady Tsune," said the silver-haired girl. "She is fine, although she is with her Ella harem sister, but in the care of Robertina and Himawari," reported Irie. Suddenly a hologram appeared and it was Kurenai. "We found our mother and the Tobio team," said the black-haired boy. "We need you to transport us all to the ship," said Shin. "I'll activate teleportation right away," said Helmwich, touching the screen. Issei vs Wriggles Eva. The exchange of blows between Dragon God and Yellow Eevee continued, trying to crush him with her fist. The brown-haired boy charged his fist back and threw it in the direction of Wriggles Eva's fist, causing a shock wave that made both fighters retreat. However, the drones and robotic dragons had arrived to further complicate the brown-haired boy. Issei, with his monster strength, tore off the dragon's head while the other drones launched an attack, but they all fell into the hands of Issei, who was being very sadistic. "Who's next?" said the brown-haired man, throwing away the severed head and making a sign to the rest of the drones. Suddenly, the yellow titan was behind Issei, who gave him a right hook in the face that threw him far away through buildings like the bookstore until he reached the Hokage residence that collapsed on top of the brown-haired man, but Issei came out of the rubble with his new dragon form. The red dragon giving him a powerful kick that destroyed a squadron of exploded drones, and the last one lifted him and threw him to the other group of Eevee's dragons, taking advantage to concentrate a lot of power in his right hand and began to run towards the Eevee's dragons. "Flame ball," he said, forming a ball of fire that would pass through everyone, leaving them lying on the ground with a huge hole in their chests, causing an explosion in chains. Issei immediately dodged some attacks, taking advantage to destroy and tear off limbs, causing some to lose their heads, others an arm or a leg, others lost the lower or upper half of their body. In short, they were massacred, and everything is seen by his children, who were watching it through a screen inside Ryudomaru. They came with insane speed and landed a few blows to his torso. Issei proceeded to quickly approach and pierce his heart with his fist, killing him instantly. The Eevee's dragons were charging a flame, but Issei with his claws was covering it with fire and made claw strikes that pierced and burned several trees. Wriggles Eva teleported in front of Issei, who tried to grab him by the neck, but the former secretary acted in time by jumping up to return the attack, hitting the Yellow Titan's skull with his fist. This didn't affect the machine god at all, and he simply spun around and punched Issei, sending him crashing into the Hokage monument in Naruto's face. The red dragon got up and shot down Wriggles, where he took the opportunity to give him a combo of punches in the stomach and then send him back with each of Issei's punches and charge dragon power in his fist to finish him off. Bernie, exclaimed the former secretary, who hit the ground hard, forming a large crater with the body of the yellow Eevees. He woke up in pain and with several wounds from the attack, staring at the red dragon. I am more than impressed, Haidu, Issei, Wriggles Eva said. But you gave me more of a fight than those guys did a few moments ago, the one who healed his wounds. Although it's time to end that fight, Eevee said seriously, using his arms to form a cannon that went against Issei. Suddenly a portal opens where Gvardora and some members of the X faction come out. Stop, Wriggles Eva Sama said, an elliptical-shaped mechanical being with apparent cracks on its body, which has a fluorescent design. It is a turtle with 4 arms thicker than its legs, which has a jet propulsion function. Imagine yourself in the shape of a turtle. Why are you coming to interrupt my battle? He asked Vidora in an angry tone. Lilvazo Asama, to return to base, he responded in a monotonous tone. Okay, because he's my brother, he said reluctantly, deactivating his cannon. We left our fight unfinished, but the next one won't save you, Hayo not Hamura Issei, said the Yellow Titan, who turned around to enter the portal with his general. I won't let you invade our universe, said the dragon to Wriggles Eva and Vidora, who closed the portal. Leaving Issei alone, who detransformed, returning to his human form, he was going to fall to the ground but was held by X, who came to carry his parents from him. A few minutes later, Issei boarded inside Ryudomaru with the help of his son. His daughter Robertina gave him a pair of phoenix tears to help him recover and have a meeting with the survivors of the Shinobi Alliance. Meanwhile, a group of Tamanin and Senrin were with the daimyo of the village who helped him. Both men had minor injuries, but Asia's daughter had healed them both. Now he had this in that meeting with the brown-haired man. What will happen now? The XD universe. Cow Forest. In the Cow Forest was the pillar Naruto Uzumaki, who had entered to hit some tree trunks to avenge the humiliation he had just received from Wriggles. Damn, I'm weak again, Naruto said, frustrated. I refuse to believe that he needed help from that pervert, he said, hitting the trunk with the boosted gear. I don't have my powers anymore, damn you crappy wise man, and that flea-infected fox for turning his back on me when I'm the savior, shouted the Uzumaki. Suddenly, an unknown figure had arrived where Naruto was. He had a smile with evil intentions to give him his power once again, and that person was none other than Lionett, one of Sech's apprentices. The Padverse Command Center. Dower's office. The black-haired man was sitting in his desk chair drinking coffee when suddenly a hologram appeared, and it was the ancient god of war, Ares, who was working as a monitor. I'm sorry to interrupt your rest, said Ares' hologram. Don't worry, I found something about Sech, said the Dower. Yes, it turns out that the ancient god had 3 apprentices, the ancient god of war reported seriously. So 3 apprentices, and he hid that information, thought the black-haired man. We arrived at the territory of one of the 3 and found a crime scene, said Ares. What are you finding there? Asked Dower. Ares was going to answer the question and revealed the name of the victims, making the case bigger than I imagined. Season 2 trailer. You could see universe of hero and villain was on the verge of destruction because the pillar was a tyrant by the horde of unknown drones. Inside a secret facility there was a group of individuals who were in front of a dimensional portal in Antarctica. Doctor, how long until the portal is activated? The female voice asked. A few more minutes to find the correct coordinate with stable Newton energy, replied the scientist. There's no more time, at any moment those robots or Naruto's bitches can find us, said another voice that was also female. You're right, Hinata and the others in London sacrificed themselves to do that mission, said the last voice, remembering how Adrian was killed by the Uzumaki. In an underworld coliseum, a battle was taking place between former pillars of the factions in their dragon form and Naruto, who had had new powers from the mysterious person from the forest. In the air, Issei dodged Naruto's blows, used his tail to hit the Sekiryu, and sent him plummeting to the ground. Upon impact, it caused the ground to crack and a crater to be created at the impact site. Naruto picked him up with minor injuries and some parts of his armor a little cracked. That's not going to stay like that, pervert, said Naruto without his helmet. When I defeat you, your daughters will be my bitch. Using his thrusters, he shot out to hit Issei's chest. Issei reacted in time, stopping the blonde's fist and then counterattacking with a kick. Naruto spat out blood because the attack broke some internal organs and several bones. At the same time, Hinata and Rias had their own battle against Citri's entourage, who was being humiliated by both. The former Hyuga had a slight injury without losing that determined look against Seraphil, who had her clothes torn to shreds, showing her breasts and a look of hate. On the other hand, the former friend had a much more personal fight. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown in left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.